the hero stood before the superior and explained that if the man thought he was being honored to participate in community service or volunteer work, then yesterday he had gotten into trouble with the bad guys from other schools. The man put his hands together and said that he could not decide whether the boy was an honor student or a problem child. The man then turned to the boy named Shiramine. The boy laughed and apologized to the man, then scratched his head. After some time, the young man came out of the office with a huge stack of papers. The dark-haired young man asked him what it was. The young man replied that it was a written apology so that he would not be suspended. The young man awkwardly apologized and said that Shiramine was apologizing because he had gotten involved with some very bad people. The protagonist waved it off and said that it was not his fault. Then the girl told the boy that when she gets into big trouble, she just leaves. The boy replied that it was a long time ago. He was ridiculed because he was a transfer student from the provinces. Because of this, he had a different dialect, common sense, and so on. However, the one who saved him was a foreign student. The boy then asked the girl why she was so cool and strong. He wanted to be like the girl, but he could never do that. The girl replied that it was because she believed in herself. The young man was surprised and asked what it meant. The girl says that she tells herself to strive to achieve her dreams. Thus, a faith was born that can make her stronger. The boy says that he has the same, so he's very interested in whether he can become stronger. Then the boy heard that soon after that the girl moved somewhere. Her lifestyle is now the protagonist's goal, and he admires her. When asked if he likes her, he does not know the answer. The young man thinks that he misses her. He doesn't understand where she is now and what she is doing. He doesn't understand if they will be able to meet again. He remembers the promise that when he became strong and she got into trouble, then the young man would save her. Suddenly, a magical seal appears under the young man's feet, and a strong gust of wind surrounds him. The comrades turn to the young man and are very surprised by what they see. Suddenly the airflow dissipated, and the boys saw that the young man had disappeared. At that moment, the main character touched some light. Suddenly, something like glass cracked and flew on. Then he found himself in some room with large panoramic windows, behind which some unfamiliar buildings were visible. The young man began to look around and did not understand what was happening. Suddenly, he was greeted and called the carrier. The protagonist turned around and saw some people he didn't know. After a while, they were sitting at a table on the balcony. The boy was apologized to for such a sudden summons. This world is different from the protagonist's world, so this world is a different world. Shiramine smiled and said that he did not believe that this was another world. He looked at the sky and saw 2 moons there. The young man was very surprised and asked why there were 2 moons in the sky. The man replied that he was glad that the young man believed. He is a human living in this world. His name is Daywowser, and he is the director of the Ningen Regular Heavy Intelligence Bureau. He says that he is the one who called the young man here. He then points to the girls and adds that they are his confidants. The blonde girl's name is Amelia, and the dark-haired girl's name is Amelia. Amelia smiles and says that it is nice to meet you. Shiramine asked why him. Daywowser said that he wanted the boy to help him with his strength. Shiramine asked what the man meant by his strength. Then they change location. The man says that he will tell the boy about the structure of this world, so the boy should listen carefully. At first glance, people enjoy a rich and peaceful life, but this is not true. This world is on thin ice. The youth thought that the house he was brought to was so strange and big that it looked more like a castle. And also, on some buildings, there were posters calling for the destruction of the demon race, as expected of another world. Then the man said that there are other races in this world. Simply speaking about another race, he means monsters. Shiramine talks about monsters and thinks that this is definitely another world. Amelia says that monsters are dirty, cruel, and cunning. Amelia adds that they are very destructive beasts. Daywowser adjusts his glasses and says that this world, not long ago, Ningen, was a dangerous world where war and unrest reigned. However, 10 years ago, they defeated the Demon Queen Freonir, who led the other races in the Great War. They reduced the number of other races and drove them to the ends of the earth. And only after that peace and tranquility were finally established in Ningen. Shiramine then asked the man what the expression about thin ice meant. In the previous Great War, they had the key to victory. This key to victory was the sword of the god called Garvelness. He killed 1,000 enemies with this sword. Together, they will be able to cut down mountains and cut oceans, as this sword may have divine power. However, at the end of the Great War, He wanted to seal the Demon Queen Freonir with the power of this sword. But they wounded each other at the same time. The Sword of God is now sealed in the body of the Demon Queen. It is now in the hands of the remnants of another race. Now, only the bearer can touch the Sword of God. If another race were to have a host, the Demon Queen would be reborn and the sword would be in her hands. Their world would end. The young man was very surprised. The protagonist replies that before that happens, he will try to get the sword back. The man agrees and says that it would be good if there were bearers among Ningen's people. After some time, he tells the boy that he can take this plane. He also will not allow the boy to act alone. Once everything is done, he will return the boy to his former world. Shiramine thanks the man. Then Amelia runs up to the boy and tells him to take them with him, because they will do everything in their power. The young man thinks that Amelia has very big curves, but this time, if it is that girl, then he will help her. He can't leave her here, because we're talking about another world. Then, they go to the plane and the protagonist thanks them for it. After some time, they arrive at some building. The young man asks what it is, and then the man explains that it is a temple where the Demon Queen named Freonir is sealed. This village is filled with inhabitants of different races. Then they use binoculars. The boy says he sees some beastmen. He asks if they are really monsters. He doesn't know if he can get through them. The man tells the boy not to worry. The man says that they have gathered an army. Behind them there is a huge number of warriors. Then the man says that with them are Amelia and Amelia, who are the best among all his soldiers. The man says he won't let anyone harm the boy. Shiramine says that's encouraging. Then he looks through his binoculars and sees ordinary people. He says that even if they are monsters, why can't they live normally? Suddenly, Dayhauser ordered all the participants to get ready. He gave the order for the first type of attack method, and then gave the command to start firing. Then the villagers heard some noise and saw a huge volley of magic projectiles. Then the man grinned and ordered his soldiers to kill the monsters. The protagonist stood there very surprised, watching what was happening. Dayhauser says that after a short time this hunt ended. At this point the people killed and robbed. They were glad that they even found strong drinks. Suddenly, he heard a man shouting for the warriors not to come near him. He was holding his children in his arms. The man was saying that he would not let his children die at the hands of the people of Ningen. He was very angry and said that the Great War was over, so he did not understand what they had done to them. They were very ruthless and treated girls and children even worse than men. The man couldn't finish speaking before Amelia attacked him, killing the man. She smiled. The other villagers became scared and shouted that Ningen only brings blood and tears. At that moment, Amelia attacked them and killed several residents at once. Shiramine continued to stand. Amelia then told the boy that it was dangerous, but they would protect him. Dayhauser interrupted them and said that only 2 people had been able to kill so many. But they had one unfinished business. The girls were delighted and said that the target was right next to them. After some time, the young man entered the temple. Shiramine saw the sealed Demon Queen with the God Sword. Dayhauser addresses the youth and tells him to take the sword. Shiramine asks what he needs to do. Dayhauser replied that if the youth was a suitable person, he would be able to pull him out easily. Suddenly, the boy pulls the sword out of the Demon Queen's body. The Air Force pushes the boy away. Dayhauser ordered all the fighters to take a fighting stance and intercept the Demon Queen Freonir. Suddenly, someone's laughter was heard. The Demon Queen said that the day had finally come when the seal was broken. The young man clutches his head and notices the Demon Queen. They were careful, but her name is the Demon Queen named Freonir. Everyone was surprised, and Dayhauser called Freonir a pickpocket. The girl said it was rude. Freonir smirks and turns to the trio, then says that she has not fully awakened because of them. To awaken, he will simply do a preparatory exercise. She swings her arm and says that she will beat them with a secret spell. However, the girl's attack does not work, and she is surprised that she does not have enough strength. The girl began to scream, not understanding what kind of appearance this was. Shiramine asked if she hadn't been like this from the very beginning. The girl pointed to her statue and asked the boy if he hadn't seen her statue. It was originally like this, and if the boy hadn't been so stupid, he would have noticed it. Shiramine asked if it really mattered. Freonir then says that she feels power from the sword that is in the hands of the young man. But in reality, this cannot be true. She rushes to Shiramine and tells him to return the power of her statue. Suddenly, something pushes the girl away and strikes her with lightning. The girl lay on the ground and said that the Sword of God had absorbed her seal power, and now no one except the bearer could touch it. The young man looked at the girl and thought that it was a coincidence, but the Demon Queen looked like the girl he met in his world. Then he thought that this was another world, and the girl was the Demon Queen. At that moment, Daywowser laughed and then said that it was very funny. He put his foot on Freonir's head and said that it was impossible for the Sword of God to absorb the power of the seal. Moreover, now the girl is locked in the form of a child. And this is very convenient since now it will be very easy. After a while, everyone gathered at the main square in the center of the village. Daywowser announced to the monsters that the Demon Queen Freonir would be executed right now. He turns to the girl and says that he is going to execute the girl in front of the monsters she protected. They are going to burn her. Freonir is very scared. One of the villagers asked the girl if it was true that they had lost the Great War. The girl replied that the battle was about the dignity and survival of the different races. However, their queen has been resurrected, so they must quickly apologize. The villagers were surprised and said that this was not Freonir at all, and if they wanted to deceive them, they failed. Freonir was very surprised. Daywowser said that this was a problem, and that these guys had ruined the whole point of the execution. Suddenly, Freonir lifted the hem of her dress and ordered the villagers to watch. The beastmen saw the seal of the forbidden spell, and this girl was indeed the real Freonir. They realized that she was going to be executed. At that moment, Daywowser grabbed the girl by the head and thanked her for her support. He then forcefully pushed her to the ground. Amelia approached her and told the girl that she had put herself to death, because this was the end for the queen of the demon Freonir. The girl held out her scythe to Freonir. Shiramine said that even if they won the Great War, they should not do this. He asked Daywowser what he would say about this. Daywowser said that the Demon Queen Freonir is a spiritual support for another race, and her execution will be the end for all monsters. Shiramine said that if Daywowser killed such an important person, there would be a possibility of rebellion. Daywowser smirked and looked at the young man. He said that then they should not leave these cunning and merciless monsters alive. They looked like real demons. Shiramine said he thought they were doing the wrong thing, and he would not be involved in it. Daywowser approached the young man and said that there was no need for his complaints here. In fact, he was in another world, and the young man had not experienced the pain and sorrow that the inhabitants of Ningen had experienced. He asks the young man not to worry, because justice will prevail. Shiramine was very surprised, while Daywowser smirked maliciously. Shiramine thought that he didn't know anything about this world, and on top of that, he didn't understand if he should help them. Suddenly, Freonir turned to the people and said that it was they who started the Great War and interrupted their normal, peaceful life. They destroyed their home and took their loved ones and then just up and left, forcing them to flee to the ends of the earth. Freonir continued to call the humans names and said that it would be better if they didn't exist at all. Daywowser continued to listen and then ordered the Demon Queen Freonir to be killed. The girl was frightened and then turned to Shiramine and told him to give her the Sword of the God. She continued and said that she would not bow her head to the owner of the Sword of the God. She pointed to the boy's eyes and added that he looked at them as if they were trash and livestock. The eyes of a man who came from another world. His eyes show what he really thinks about them. His eyes show that he does not trust them, but believes only in his own right thoughts. Suddenly there was a huge explosion. The villagers were very surprised and people flew into the air. The boy said that they were very similar. The girl did not understand what he meant. Then Shiramine replied that the girl said it exactly like the girl from his memories. Daywowser turned to the boy and asked him if he even knew what he was doing. Shiramine said that he would protect this girl. At that moment, the boy's hair turns silver. He talks about how he will now join another race. He thinks that people are doing something very wrong. Daywowser smirked and said that it was very unfortunate. Shiramine jumped off the roof and told the people to get out or he would chop them into little pieces with the Sword of God. The men said it was as if they were listening to some pig from another world. He was so stupid to decide to join the monsters. The young man began to dodge the men's blows and then began to strike with his hands and feet. The men said that this guy was very strong. At this point, the young man makes a sweeping, circular attack and knocks almost all the warriors aside. Shiramine turns to Daywowser and asks if the man really didn't know that the sword had been telling him how to fight from the start. Daywowser called Amelia and Amelia. The girls all attack the boy, who defended himself with the sword of God. Amelia said that she thought they could all get along. Shiramine defended himself with his sword. At that moment, Amelia began to attack him with her scythe. She hits the young man on the arm and he releases the sword of the god from him. Suddenly, he strikes her, and she can't stand it and loses her grip. At that moment, the young man grabs Amelia's head with his hand and throws it straight at Amelia. Then he grabs his sword and strikes the ground. The girls fly off to the side. They jumped aside and turned to the master, apologizing and saying that they had let the man down. Daywowser smiled and said that the two of them had done a good job and had worn out the wielder of the sword of God. Thanks to the girls, it will be easier for him to finish off this man. He uses a device in the form of a gun and fires a bullet straight into the young man. Shiramine said how Daywowser did it because he was watching him all this time. At this time, Freonir was sitting behind the stone. The girl asked if someone could really get the aggression technique in real life, and the boy managed to stop her with a barrier. And she didn't even notice how it happened. The boy doesn't understand what the girl is talking about. He asked her what this aggression technique and barriers were. It seemed that he would never understand the people of this world. Freonir said that the boy was indeed from another world. The young man asked Freonir, while fighting off attacks, if she could do anything about it. She was the queen of demons. Freonir was embarrassed and said that she needed this sword. It contained all her power. Then the girl remembered the moment when the young man held her in his arms. She grabbed his hand and ordered the young man to stop. Shiramine didn't understand what the girl was doing. Suddenly, a magic seal appeared under them. The girl added that this wound was on her hand. She knew that she wouldn't be able to touch the sword of a god. However, the girl would be able to draw strength from the boy. Suddenly, a stream of air covered them. Laughter was heard. The girl laughed and said that power was coming to her. She ordered the inhabitants not to be afraid and to praise her, because her name is the Demon Queen Freonir. The girl acquired a completely different appearance. Amelia said that the girl had returned to her previous state. Daywowser replied that this should not have happened, so it must be dealt with. At this time, Freonir and Shiramine were holding hands. The girl said that it was very weak, so more was needed. A huge demonic seal appeared behind the heroes. Freonir shouted that they would destroy the enemies. Daywowser was very surprised when Freonir used the fourth forbidden technique, Light Break. After some time, Freonir thanked Shiramine for her help. The young man replied that it was the girl who had helped him. Then, Freonir asked the young man what she had to say to him. The girl asked the boy what he would do now. Shiramine said that they had defeated the boy, who knew how to return him to the original world. Then the young man asked what about the girl. She said that all these people took the lives of her subordinates. This will continue as long as Ningen rules this world. So she will become the leader of another race again. They will return back what was stolen from them. Then Freonir extends her hand to the youth and addresses him as the bearer of the sword of a god from another world, asking if he will help her. In the previous battle, she was convinced of the boy's abilities, so she is confident that together they can stand against them. However, the boy is a man from another world, and she knows that the boy has no obligation to participate in their war. Suddenly, Shiramine began to laugh. He shook the girl's hand and said that he had already said that he would join another race. At that moment, the girl jumped into the boy's arms. Shiramine remembers the girl's words to her youth that next time it will be the youth's turn to help him. Shiramine grabs Freonir and lifts her into the air. He thinks about how this girl is quite heavy. Freonir then says that they need to start their rebellion immediately. At this time, Daywowser was watching the bearer of the God Sword and the Demon Queen. Amelia said that she couldn't believe that they had teamed up. Daywowser said that the boy had killed all of his subordinates. When he first met him, he did not expect that the boy would be capable of such a thing. He betrayed Daywowser to join another time. He says that another race rebelled and his unit was destroyed. Everything is going according to plan. He is going to start a second war, and his friend Rasa, the Demon Queen Freonir, and the bearer of the god's sword Shiramine, he will make them die. This time he was sure that no one would survive. The young man began to laugh under the laughter of the moon, and Amelia stood very tensely. The main character continues to be in another world. In this world, a great war took place, and because of humanity, another race lost everything. The protagonist was summoned to this world and gained the power of the Holy Sword. Shiramine Shigeru decided to fight on the other side of the race along with the Demon Queen Freonir. The boy woke up the next day and saw the Demon Queen Freonir right in his bed. He asked the girl why she was in his bed. The girl woke up and asked what was going on. She apologizes and says that she is used to doing this when she gets drunk, and it seems like she got a little carried away at the party last night, and waking up in someone else's bed is her habit. The young man started to say something, but they were interrupted. The man came into the young man's room and said that everything was starting, but suddenly, he saw Freonir and screamed. The girl said that the man had misunderstood everything. After a while, they went down to a room where there were a lot of people. Shiramine thought that there was something like television in this world. That was why everyone was gathered here. He thought that someone had changed the channel and, besides, there was a silhouette in the sky. Freonir turned to the young man and told him to look at the screen, namely at the man in it. She said that the man being shown is the ruler of the human race, Emperor Busutafu. He says that unless they defeat the emperor, the other race has no future. Suddenly, Shiramine saw the guy he defeated a while ago standing next to the emperor. He said it was Daywowser, and next to him were Amelia and Amelia. Freonir said that they were directly affected by the forbidden spell, but survived. At this moment, the emperor said that all humans are members of one family. The other race has risen, and the Demon Queen has been reborn. The wielder of the Holy Sword has defected to the enemy side, and they are about to turn their fangs on them. They are the pillars of this world. They defeated the other race in the previous Great War, but even after that, they allowed them to live in peace and quiet. They were very merciful to them. However, their mercy was trampled. Because of this, they should not leave them alive. They are a threat to their world. At this moment, Shiramine called Freonir. The girl said that everything starts exactly the same as last time. The girl and the emperor say at the same time that they need to destroy the other race. The emperor declares that this is a war of extinction, so they start a war to cleanse their world of all trash. Shiramine thought that he did not regret that he had decided to fight alongside Freonir. However, he did not understand whether they could win. The sword of the god and the queen of demons. The opponents have a clear advantage. Freonir noticed Shiramine's worried expression. She told the young man that the emperor was worried about one thing. Right now, they couldn't really begin preparing for war. The people had enjoyed peace and quiet for 10 years after the Great War. The preparation will take 2 or 3 weeks. At the same time, they will also prepare their forces. Shiramine asked if they really weren't ready yet. He asked why they didn't tell him about it yesterday. The girl said she couldn't believe that after all this, the boy wanted to leave them. The soldiers who survived the Great War asked for a chance to counterattack. They would hide in different places. Before the party last night, she contacted someone, and he will arrive soon. Suddenly, the young man notices that some silhouette appeared right on the balcony next to the young man and the girl. Shiramine and Freonir dodged deftly, but were very surprised when an unknown person suddenly appeared. The young man began to attack with his sword, and then suddenly parried the stranger's attack and put the sword right to his neck. Shiramine asked the stranger who he was and if he was a murderer or something. Suddenly, the stranger grinned. Suddenly, Freonir stopped the young man and said that he was the king of beasts, and he was just joking. Shiramine was very surprised. At this time, the stranger began to take off his hood and asked permission from the bearer of the Holy Sword from another world to apologize for being rude. He is the boy's comrade and kills people. His name is Liat Pradmeal. The man shakes the boy's hand and says that he has heard a lot about him and trusts him completely. He respects the boy for sparing Freonir's life. Liat addresses Freonir, calling the girl her queen, and says that he has been waiting for his rebirth along with 1,000 fangs. The villagers began to shout joyfully the name of the Demon Queen, Freonir. Suddenly, they looked at the girl and wondered if it was really Freonir. The girl ordered everyone to stand down, and the villagers realized that she was real. Liat said that when the Demon Queen contacted him and told him about it, he didn't believe it at first, but they really did become a child. Liat picked up the Demon Queen and said that the girl was so small and reminded him of his daughter. Freonir shouted at the man not to treat her like a child. Shiramine thinks that Liat looks like his uncle Ajizan, and that's scary. Liat says that he's very happy to be working with one of their most talented people of another race. The boy says that he's flattered. Liat said that they were celebrating too early because the human army was heading their way. They needed time to prepare. The girl asked if these weren't just regular soldiers. Light says that their enemy is an authorized group of people who are the Emperor's personal army, and there are about 30,000 of them. The Emperor's army acts on behalf of the colonial government with special permission from the country. The edge of the world, where many inhabitants of another race have been exiled. It is this army that basically rules them. Freonir says that they are using colonial rule for their own benefit. She would like to avoid this endless war. If so, then is it worth leading the situation together with Shiramine? Light asks what to do, because what is the difference in their fighting strength? Freonir says that there is no way to avoid the battle. The girl says that from now on she takes the entire human race under her wing. She tries to figure out what she can do that's so scary to 30,000 people. The girl goes and says that she will meet them with open arms. On the same day, the former trading town of Rio Alcara was built along the river and prospered because it was possible to find anything there and buy it with ease. The Great War left its mark on it too. It is now a ghost town that is avoided. The two armies faced each other. An army of 1,000 individuals from another race against an army of 30,000 humans. Shiramine looked at everything that was happening and wondered why there were so many people here, as many as 30,000. He called Freonir and said that the difference in strength was huge. The girl spoke of the holy sword Shiramine and her forbidden magic. If they used their ultimate weapon, the fourth forbidden technique, which could defeat them in one blow, and about 30,000 more soldiers. It will be a miracle if they can defeat them, because it is not that easy. The girl says that you can use forbidden magic 3 times a day, because more than that simply won't work. Freonir says that if they need a diversionary scene, they can rely on her. Shiramine wonders if that will really work. Liat turned to Shiramine and said that the boy seemed very unsure, and then suggested that they finish their preparations. He tells the boy not to worry. Even during the First Great War, Freonir had overcome such difficulties. The boy says that this is encouraging. Liat grinned and said that Freonir had a plan. They also knew that the advancing human army was quite well fortified. He didn't know how Freonir would react if they forced their race's slaves from their colonies into the battle. Then the man said that they were already here. He thought that Shiramine might see them for a bit too. Freonir was one of the main reasons why she was afraid of being called the Demon Queen. Suddenly, a sound alert was heard, addressed to another race. The man asked to give her the Demon Queen Freonir and the bearer of the Holy Sword, and then humanity will leave them alive. Freonir laughed and said that it was natural. All the beastmen began to rejoice. Freonir said that she was sorry, but she had bad news for the humans. However, if they want the head of the Demon Queen, they can go and take it. The man got angry. He thought about how he was going to capture the others and make them his servants, but he didn't need that anymore. So he needed to kill them all. Freonir said that their exit had come, so she orders them to show all their determination. She announces the signal for the beginning of the war. Then they started attacking each other. Shiramine said that it was very cool, and now he can see how the battles of another world are going. Freonir said that the basis of battle is the technique of aggression. Tricks will not help here. Powerful military equipment has great power and can cover a huge area. Their goal is to prevent this and attack them with a barrier. So the army lines up to increase firepower. In this case, they will get enough power. The girl smirks and says that she does not want to stand aside. The girl asks the boy to give her his hands. She takes his hand and regains her true form. The girl uses the 6th type of forbidden magic, namely the reflective barrier spell. The people were very surprised. They attacked the beastmen, but all their attacks were reflected right back at them. The people realized that this was forbidden magic. One of the warriors shouted to the commander-in-chief that the barrier was too untimely and the first team would die now. The men realized that the limit of using forbidden magic was 3 times a day. Now the Demon Queen had already used this magic once. He realized that the Demon Queen wanted to use forbidden magic defensively as well. Quite reasonable considering the difference in numbers. At the same time, he is sure that 30,000 soldiers cannot be killed by forbidden magic. He ordered the people to attack. If they attack them in close combat, they will be able to break through the forbidden magic. He suggests that the warriors arrange a bloody festival for the enemies. At one point, a huge beastman, similar to a lion, bursts onto the battlefield. It was Liat. The human soldiers gathered to kill all the monsters. Suddenly, Liat used a sweeping attack and destroyed the people around him. The remaining warriors asked Liat what he was and why he was so strong. The man turned around and said that 10 years ago they had defeated them by pure chance. That was why he would not let them win this war now. The male commander-in-chief of the human army realized that this monster seemed to have high levels of physical strength. However, he would not be able to withstand such a number of opponents. The man ordered the warriors to attack him from both sides. The beast girl turned to the general and said that they were ready. Liat shouted that they were retreating. Then the beast army ran into the city, and the human army followed them. The commander-in-chief said that the enemies had run into the city. There are significantly fewer of them, so by occupying a narrow space they will be able to fight fewer enemies. But they chose the wrong tactics because this street is too big. There are too many buildings here, so there is no way to hide behind them. After this, he really enjoys killing monsters. He thinks that if they go that far, but then this tactic is meaningless. They won't be able to handle that many opponents. The Holy Sword Bearer and the Demon Queen are stationed on the tower, but he doesn't understand why. She has 2 more uses of forbidden magic, but she must save them. What worries him most is the fact that the bearer of the Holy Sword does not enter the battle. The Holy Sword is used only for basic hand-to-hand combat. He thinks about the forbidden magic and when the Demon Queen will use it again. There will be no point in saving if they get into an emergency. Then he would do this to get them. They must attack right now. He ordered the warriors to attack and bring him the heads of the Demon Queen and the Holy Sword Bearer. The Demon Queen heard this command, smiled, and said that now was the moment. She ordered the entire army to split into 2, one to the right and one to the left. The commander-in-chief of the human army was surprised that the enemy had destroyed the front line. Then he ordered the entire army to stop. There was a river ahead and the bridge was broken. It turned out that they had reached a dead end. The commander-in-chief was very surprised and did not understand what to do. Then he was informed that 2 squads of another race had occupied the narrow alleys. Killing them all would be quite a problem. The man clenched his teeth. He said that it was not even that. The warrior was surprised. The man wondered since when there was a river here because it was very funny. Why is the tower where the Demon Queen sits built right next to the river? He realizes that something is wrong here. Then the man realized she was just a decoy. He ordered everyone to announce a general retreat. Freonir smirked and said it was too late. She apologizes for keeping people waiting. The girl then turns to Shiramine and says it's his turn. At that moment, the boy takes out his sword and his hair turns white. The young man then jumped off the tower and flew straight into the center of the huge crowd of people. He then swung his sword and cut down the building next to him. He jumped back to the next one and cut it down too. The men began to panic. The commander-in-chief realized that they were in front of a river, and behind them were the rubble of buildings. On both sides of the building, in the alleys of which monsters are waiting for them. His comrades are dying. Freonir laughed and said that it was a complete siege. Shiramine stood on the roof of one of the buildings and said that it was very cool. Then Freonir flew up to him and called him. The girl took on her true form and flew into the sky. She said that as she had stated earlier, they would have to cast forbidden magic on the clouds to destroy the 30,000 soldiers deployed over a large area. However, they had to be gathered in one place so that they would all fit within the radius of the magic. She blocked the exit so that they could not escape. The male commander looked at the girl and asked what she was. How come 30,000 warriors were surrounded by an army of only 1,000 units? He thought it was impossible and it couldn't happen. At that moment, the girl announced that the first stage was ready. Then she called Shiramine. The girl used forbidden magic in the form of a spell called Destructive Technique. People were screaming that their boss was dead. And what's more, she was able to humiliate half of the soldiers in just a minute. They say that they can't win. Freonir said that there's one more use of forbidden magic left. So they must choose, surrender or die. Shiramine thought Freonir was bluffing. She used 3 attempts of forbidden magic. Before the battle even began, the girl restored this city with forbidden magic, and it changed. A huge street, a clock tower, and an exit to the river. In other words, it became strange. However, the humans have no reason to continue fighting against them. Freonir's words have sown despair and hopelessness in them. Eventually, all the surviving human soldiers surrendered. It was a battle that began with a huge difference in strength. But thanks to the skill of the Demon Queen, a crushing victory was achieved. It was definitely a complete victory. The boy asks the girl if she is happy, because her face was not so happy before. Freonir asks if the boy really asks if she is happy. The girl smiles and says that the boy is absolutely right. The girl said that no matter how strong the enemy is, it doesn't matter how many of them there are. With the young man, she will be able to overcome all difficulties. Sometime later, the action took place in the capital of humanity. The speaker had just finished his report to the emperor. The man said that meant they had lost all their soldiers and were unable to defeat the other race. Dewazir agreed, but told His Majesty not to worry. The super-powerful art Arya cannon is almost ready. Once it is completed, the other race will immediately know about it. There is an absolute difference in strength between humans and monsters. After a while, Freonir put a vegetable on her fork and couldn't eat it. Shiramine said the children are very sensitive to bitterness, so he asks her if she wants him to eat it for her. Freonir then says that new friends will soon arrive and they will feast again. Shiramine tells the girl not to drink too much. He has heard that frequent drinking is bad for a child's growth. Freonir became angry and then jumped up and asked Shiramine if he really considered her a child. Shiramine said that she was the child. The girl denied and said that her true form was that of Banebane. She then turned to the beastmen. The girl ordered them not to be silent and to support her, although Leot had long recognized her as a child. Then the girl grabbed the boy's hand and acquired her true form. The girl said that she wants the boy to thoroughly experience her adult charm. She asks what the boy thinks of her true appearance. Shiramine said that, frankly speaking, when a girl is in this form, he begins to feel that the lion's share of men will be captivated by the girl. Then Shiramine asked the girl what happened to her. The girl replied that nothing happened to her. The girl started laughing and said that Shiramine was so insightful. More than 100 young men had fallen in love with her in her entire life. Liat was surprised and said he didn't remember that, because she had never had a boyfriend. Freonir was surprised and immediately turned to Liat. Liat realized he had to play along. The man then said that Freonir was actually a succubus. The girl added that she was afraid to tell the boy that she really was a succubus. The young man asks if the girl is really going to do all sorts of interesting things with him. Freonir laughed, and Shiramine asked the girl what she was waiting for, since she was a succubus. Was it possible that she had lied to him? Then the girl grabbed the boy's hands and wrapped them around her curves. The boy asked the girl to wait. The girl said that all the guys seemed to like that. If the young man recognized her as a mature, independent woman, then perhaps she would do something better. The young man asked what could be better than that. He approached the girl and said that in that case, she would not hold back. Then he asked the girl if she was afraid. He starts whispering obscenities into her ear, and then the girl falls unconscious. The young man says he is very ashamed because he really regrets that this happened, and then asks the girl to wake up. Then Freonir agreed with the young man and said that she agreed, and since he considered her a child, could he not make her an adult? The young man was very embarrassed. Freonir asked the young man not to stand there like a statue. Then the young man did not understand what he had to do. Shiramine said that if he does this, he will not be able to sleep tonight. Freonir understands that she will not be able to run away and hide. The girl asks him to wait, because she needs to prepare her heart for this. At this point, Liat splashes them with cold water and tells them that it had to be done, and then adds that they don't have to thank him. After what happened, Freonir began to look at Shiramine with constant apprehension. The girl asked the young man to stay away from her. Shiramine shouted that the girl herself started it. 10 days after Freonir's rebirth, warriors gradually gathered from different lands. The young man was very surprised by the number of those who arrived. He looked at the open area where many tents were pitched. The young man said that this place had turned into a real camp. Now the young man could truly say that all races had gathered here. He realized that they were not all just monsters. Suddenly a girl crept up to the boy and tied him up with her vines. She said that he really seemed to know nothing about this world. It looks like she is supposed to teach the boy everything from start to finish. The girl's name was Gloria Oliviela, and she was an Arbarian dryad. The girl invited the boy to begin. Shiramine has never seen other dryads before, so he thinks they are a rare race. Apparently, she is also one of Freonir's right hands. At that moment, Freonir came to the young man. She offered Shiramine to have lunch together, but saw the young man with Gloria and asked what they were doing. The young man realized that he did not get along very well with this type of character. After some time, the heroes come to a tent with a sign of the general staff. Freonir said that it was time to proceed to the next point of their plan. Up until this point, they had been using guerrilla warfare tactics, which was effective in avoiding another large-scale battle. However, this would only delay the war, and only the strongest would survive. It is impossible to win the war with these tactics alone, so they must secure a stronghold that can provide them with supply and production routes, and also allow them to organize their battalions with space for training. Moreover, a base that can confront the people with a huge military force. Freonir said that this object has already been identified, surrounded by numerous cannons and ramparts with many barriers, formerly a frontline human army base. This object is the fortress city of Coldlood. Shiramine thought that this building was huge. Liat said that it was really huge and this city originally belonged to them. After it was captured, it was rebuilt. After some time, they took the inhabitants hostage and sent them to enemy camps, including his daughter, Leona. Finally, when they returned Coldlood back, it came. Freonir said that it was so. Because the fortress was well equipped, it was called impregnable in the past. However, after the war, the human army was recalled. Thus, it allowed the Imperial Coalition to lay claim to it. Shiramine asked about the headquarters. Then, if they took it, all the non-humans taken hostage would be released. The youth asked about the composition of the plan. The girl said that they still have to make up for the 30,000 soldiers who died in the last battle. This time, they will be the ones with the largest army. They will crush them with numbers, so they will take this city, or so they would make them think. Instead, they would sneak into the city through this underground passage. Shiramine replied that he knew the girl would have something prepared. The girl said that after all, even with a few soldiers, these walls were pretty strong. She would be truly grateful if they would just capitulate and give up the fortress. Suddenly, the gates of the fortress opened. Shiramine asked if they were going to surrender. Freonir said that it was unlikely, and there was a high probability that it was a trap. However, this is also an opportunity to end it quickly. They will invade with their elite troops. With them is the Beast King Lydit and the Sage Gloria. Shiramine was surprised that the girl came too. Although she does not look reliable, the girl said that it was such a passionate look and she could start pollination. The young man asked Gloria to stop. Then, they went inside the captured camp. Lyd asked what was that stench here. Then Shiramine called him sharply, and they were very surprised at what they saw. There were many parts of beastmen's bodies around, as well as skulls. A little further away, there were many hanged beastmen. Also in this place, there was some kind of room with bloody prints from the inside. Lyat said they were prisoners. Their brothers had been forced to work as servants for too long. He turned to the survivors and asked what had happened to Leona. Suddenly, a voice was heard saying that he wanted his servants to work a little longer. But there were too many of them, so they had to find suitable work for everyone. Those who couldn't find work went to experience paradise. The rest will be used as shields. Suddenly, there were many prisoners in front of them. Lyat noticed his daughter Leona in the crowd. The man said that because of the events of that day, his company had lost 30,000 soldiers, suffered great damage, and their competence was called into question. But not only that, if they also took these lands from them, his company would be destroyed. The man's name was Bob Harton, and he was the executive director of the Imperial Coalition. He smiled and asked if the invaders knew what they had, the very thing they wanted to protect. He then orders the servants, who have taken up knives in their hands, to get rid of the Demon Queen and Freonir and her companions. The beastmen servants hesitated for a moment. The man asked what was wrong with them and whether they had not hurt him. One of the beastmen said that they couldn't. They couldn't hurt their comrades, especially when they had come to save them. The man smirked and said if that was true. Then he activated some seal that was connected to the collar of this beastman. The next moment, his head exploded, pushing away several more beastmen. Freonir and Shiramine were very surprised. The man then said that he was repeating again that they must kill everyone. The servant beastmen began to attack their fellows. Leona screamed that she was so sorry and asked her father for forgiveness. Then another beastman said that they couldn't fight against their comrades. The man smirked and told the beastmen's servants to try harder. They didn't understand yet. He explodes another beastman's head. Shiramine was about to attack him, but the man replied that he should not move from his place, because at such a distance he would be much faster. The boy called out to Freonir, but the girl told him not to move. The beastman turned to Liat and said that if they continued like this, it would only get worse and it could hurt. The man said he couldn't. It was because they had failed to protect them and they had known hell, and the others wanted them to experience it again. Leona called her father. Then the man turned to the girl and said that she was the daughter of this monster. The man said that this was simply magnificent. Here in this prison, where they tested various methods of getting rid of monsters, the most impressive thing is the fight to the death between family members. He ordered Leona and Leota to put on a show and kill each other. The man activated the collar control panel again and said he was not very patient. Liat got scared and then grabbed the girl by the arms and stuck her knife into his stomach. The girl started shaking. Then the man said that if they refused, the girl would be killed, so he would not regret it for her sake. Freonir looked at Liat and gritted her teeth, and Shiramine clutched his sword and knew that he could do nothing. The man thought about what then. They were slowly mixing, just as the man had planned. He hadn't thought from the start that these prisoners would be able to defeat them before Freonir did something. He realized that this was their true purpose. Suddenly, Leona's collar began to glow, and then everyone else's collars activated as well. The man said that the explosive technology is a gamma bomb in a free point. They will not be able to block it with a barrier. They will fly apart. Shiramine said that this man had planned to kill everyone from the beginning. He asked if this was how a man acted. At this moment, Gloria summoned a small breeze and then opened her eyes. She began to use her ability and said that the analysis was complete. Freonir immediately grabbed Gloria by the sprout and called Shiramine. The girl grabbed his hand and acquired her true form. The girl apologized to the boy for making him wait. She was determined to save everyone. Then the girl used the third forbidden technique, the vast forced cancellation of impartial eyes. Suddenly, all the collars fell apart on the necks of the beastmen. Leona immediately ran to her father because they were saved. The man hugged his daughter and said that they were able to save her. The man was surprised that Freonir had forcibly canceled, or rather dismantled, all the collars with explosives. It was ridiculous, even with the lasso. If she didn't know the code, making an example out of them was a bad idea. Thanks to this, those who were caught in the explosion. Gloria said that it was all because of the grass. Thanks to it, becoming one with the plants around her, she was able to analyze the code. The girl says that this is an Arborian and the Dryad is her. Because of this ability, people were afraid of the Arborians, so they killed them all. Freonir said that it was the same as in the last Great War. Humans, for their own convenience, cruelly treated members of other races, exterminating them. The girl ordered all the people to languish, for she was directing the fangs of rebellion at their arrogant mouths. The man got angry and said what was wrong with their comfort. They were allowed to live only because they were kind. Then a huge robot came out of the door. The man laughed and said that even if it was still falling apart now, it was a former military base. They'd been keeping this robot since they got this place. This is what would have torn the beastmen to pieces in the last Great War. This is a combat robot warrior. The beastmen said that they had released a warrior. The man said that humans were the supreme rulers of this world. If they want to survive, they must submit to them and become servants. At that moment, the robot attacked Leota, who defended his daughter. The man said that if they did not want to obey, they would be destroyed by this robot. The robot began to attack Leota, but Shiramine protected him. Liat turned to the messenger of the sacred sword. Shiramine became very angry and began to attack the robot. In an instant, the young man cut off the robot's hand. The young man asked the man why he was throwing away the lives of other races while smiling. He asked the man again why he acts like he's better than everyone else. At that moment, the robot starts attacking the boy. Shiramine got very angry and shouted if this is really how people of this world are. At that moment, he cuts the robot. The man was surprised that the robot couldn't even finish. He needed to run, but they had to get the orders from this man. Shiramine took Freonir's hand and said that he would let him escape. They used the fourth forbidden technique of the shining burst of destruction, the curse of existence. The man was thrown back by the explosion. He looked at Shiramine and Freonir and shouted that none of this was true and why he was in this chaos. He ordered the alien species to know their place. Shiramine got angry. Freonir put her hand on the boy's fist, and together they ordered the man to be quiet and then hit him on the head. Sometime later, in the Great Square, Freonir addressed the ladies and gentlemen, her fellows. The girl said that today they had restored Kuldlud, so they should celebrate it. This war is different from the Great War of the past. They have spent the last 10 years sharpening their fangs and claws. The messenger of the Holy Sword, a deadly enemy in the past, now stands with them. They will restore their former freedom and honor. Shiramine said they were full of energy. He asked the girl and said they would pass this on to the other kindreds so they could see how things were here, and that's what this machine was for. The girl reported that, at first, the return of Kudlud was their greatest desire. In addition, the reign of the Imperial Coalition ended. They struck back, having passed the critical point. With their powers growing, they were one step closer to defeating the humans. Shiramine said that everything was according to plan. Gloria agreed and said that they could trust Freonir. Suddenly, Dueozer appeared on the screen and said that it was an impressive speech, befitting a monster. The young man asked what was going on. The girl replied that a signal had been intercepted from somewhere using powerful technology. Dueozer said that while he had a hand in it, it was sad, but no big deal. Kuldlud and the Imperial Coalition had little value to them. He asked permission to report that the monsters would definitely not be able to defeat the people. The young man told Freonir that something was wrong. The girl agreed with him. They ran out to the city's observation tower. Liat asked the girl and boy what they felt, because there was nothing 100 kilometers to the west. Suddenly, a glimmer appeared in the sky. Suddenly, the girl used the sixth forbidden technique, the reflective barrier of the Holy Land of Restoration. Everyone was very surprised. Freonir was surprised that her arcana could not repel this attack. Shiramine held Freonor's hand. The volley passed. The youth asked if this was really the end. Freonir said it was not the end. The city was damaged along with the walls. Dayhauser grinned and said that the super-heavy shock cannon Atralia, the entire continent is within reach. Enormous firepower, super-large artillery has been fully completed. He turns to the beastmen and says that they will not even be allowed to show themselves to humanity. They must simply crawl to the ends of the earth and disappear into the dust. Freonir smirked and asked Shiramine if he had heard that. Apparently, the entire continent was within range. It was simply fantastic, and they would take it for themselves. The super-heavy strike cannon, Atralia. Dayhauser said, after finishing his speech, that he thought it would do for now. At that moment, Amelia and Amelia were standing next to each other. Amelia was stretching. Amelia asked Amelia if she thought they looked cool. Amelia said she didn't think they were shown at all. At this point, Dayhauser turned to the girls and told them to go and prepare for battle. They couldn't relax because of the Demon Queen Freonir and the Holy Swordbearer. This place would most likely become a battlefield in the near future. Amelia asked the man if he really thought they could dodge Atralia's shot. Amelia said that they would then meet that guy again, the bearer of the Holy Sword. Amelia asked the girl why she was so happy. Amelia said she thought this was a good chance to get him on their side. He listened to their plea after the horses called him so suddenly, so she thought he was a really good man. The only reason he's with the Demon Queen is because she tricked him. If they talk to him again, everything will be fine. Dayhauser turned to Amelia and said that Shiramine was their enemy. He had willingly become an enemy of the humans. There would be no reason to capture him next time, so they should not hold back. They must get rid of him using everything they have. Amelia turned to Amelia, and the girl replied that she understood. However, she still thinks that he turned away from them because the master's explanation was too confusing. About people and this world without all this, if they explain everything to him, then he will come to them. Amelia told Amelia that it was a secret. Amelia said that she knew about it, but she didn't say anything wrong. Dayhauser said that as long as non-humans live, this world will be wrong, waiting to change. That's how this world is. At this time, at the end of the land, in a village in a mountainous region, the beastmen were asking each other if they had recently seen the broadcast about Freonir's revival. This would bring freedom to the demons. At that moment, a beam from a huge cannon hit the mountain that was next to the village, wiping the village off the face of the earth. Freonir said 4 days after the attack. With the estimated casualties and this footage, they can now piece together the full picture. With an attack range of 3,000 kilometers, with an initial speed exceeding 12 kilometers per second. Compared to what they installed, their Megatech battery is much more powerful. The mechanism is apparently something like a machine. The protagonist thought that he had to believe all the words that he didn't quite understand. The techniques are not only used for military purposes. They allow the release of huge amounts of energy and all sorts of phenomena into thin air. This alternate world relies entirely on these techniques. A special summoned main field, Eczema, is required to use the technique. The technique itself has the highest power and effectiveness when the summoned main field eczema is used together with the use. However, this is why many military equipment use this principle as the main one. It is difficult to control through this method, which results in a huge burden on the user. For more convenient and safe use, large machines are made for commercial use. As a reference, he talks about those combat mechanisms. Essentially, people who do not have enough energy for techniques use mechanisms. He read all this during the negotiations. Liat asked Freonir if she really said 3,000 kilometers. It seemed they weren't bluffing when they said the entire continent was within range. Considering the circumstances, the shape of the weapon is quite unusual, even mystical. Shiramine said that it is not even mystical, but looks like a railgun. Freonir said that given the circumstances, it was not a standard weapon, but looking at the possibility from many angles, capturing it would be tantamount putting a knife to the throat of humanity. They must get it, this super heavy weapon, Australia. Of course, the humans guard it well. Australia was built on an important frontier base for the humans. The soldiers of the Imperial Coalition are no match for the human regular army, equipment, Kriegers, and other technisms. She expects a fierce battle. She will even dare to say that this battle will be an important stage of their counterattack. Liat said that it was as he wanted. By sinking their fangs into the lower soldiers, they only dulled them. The girl who sat next to Liat agreed and said that even they had their own mechanisms. She introduced a light combat mech, the Krieger Lightweight, developed sincerely by their Third Eye Ocula Trinitarian and engineering team. She calls it Die no Soli. Gloria said it didn't look as robust as a human Krieger battle mech, and why the cockpit was completely open. Nee said the girl was asking for too much. They only had fragile Takenism fragments as materials. On the contrary, with cheap materials they can build much more. They are linked to her workshop in real time, so she can immediately collect combat data and then improve them quickly. Liat said that was all well and good, but why was her daughter Leona running them? Nee replied that she volunteered, but she was actually the best at it. Concentration camp duty. Prisoners had to perform dangerous work using these. Leona said that if they missed something or made a mistake, they could die, so she desperately memorized how to use them. Liat began screaming about how he dared to do this to his beloved daughter. Shiramine said they had already punished him. Liat said he was against it. After he had finally saved his beloved daughter, sending her to the battlefield, Gloria smiled at the fact that this was a father's love. However, why does he not consider Leona's feelings? Even if it means overcoming some danger, she still wants to fight with him. She wants to reunite with him and make up for the 10 years they missed. Liat said that this girl is very honest, so they should take a huge dinner. Shiramine said that they confused a battle with a picnic or something. Nee said that he is a very loving father. Shiramine was surprised and said that the two were not alike at all. He asked to look at Leona and said that she looked almost human. An Oryx beast named Lana said that this was natural since General Liata's wife was human. Shiramine was surprised by this and said that she was one of the demon heads after all. The Beastman replied that it was because before the Great War, humans and demons lived together. Such families were common. A cow-type animal named Schwanzika said that the idea itself seems unbelievable now. If you look at Leona's ears, but she has both human ears and animal ears, during the Great War, they were considered absurd because they had the blood of the enemy. Called the four-eared, they were despised by both humans and demons. A half-dog beast named Giro said that he had cut off his own ears. Master Liat has earned his status and faith, despite his four-eared daughter. Frankly, he is simply outstanding. Liat thanked his comrades. The man told everyone to step aside, because they, animals, should not retreat if it comes to hand-to-hand combat. Freonir interrupts them and says that their biggest test now is how to get to Australia. From here to Australia lies land where everything was destroyed in the previous Great War. That is, about 400 kilometers. It is a complete wasteland. Of course, sending their army across the wasteland on foot would doom them to destruction. Apparently, the Australia needs several hours to reload after each volley, but that would not be enough time for their troops to cross the wasteland. Shiramine said if we need speed, what about aircraft? Freonir said they can shoot them down, but not only that, their payload will be as low as possible. Then someone suggested that if they went around and let the mountain cover them. Freonir replied that that would also take too long. The fortress itself, in the midst of her arcana, is barely protected from a volley. The reflective barrier of her arcana is the holy ground of rebellion, and it can be active for 24 hours. She creates it every day. She assumes that they will not be allowed to pass so easily. In other words, they must travel 400 kilometers and capture Atralia within 24 hours. This is a very unreasonable demand. Lied suggests that if it is impossible to get to her, then how did they get the footage that is behind Freonir? The girl said that was an excellent deduction. The truth is that the path has already been laid. The underground crown, that is, the underground tunnel. Lai had heard that they were almost destroyed during the Great War. Freonir said that they apparently believed in a rebirth and worked with the underground ants to carry out repairs. It was good work, Gloria asked. That this is not all, because the path is secured. Freonir interrupted the girl and said that this is indeed her arcana. The second forbidden technique is the underworld, which can control inanimate objects at her will. They expanded the underground tunnel, and they built a railroad here. Shiramine said that the arcana had no laws. Liat asked how far they could go along this path. If they don't want to be discovered, they can only get to a place very far from Atralia. At this point, Gloria captured several beastmen and said that, in that case, it was her job to break through the rest of the way. Liat said that if they used her barbaric dryad power, in that case, they would leave the rest to her. Shiramine turned his attention to Gloria and said what was going on. Freonir said that she would show everything to the boy later, but now he should not look. Then Freonir told them to move on, because this was not the only way. At this time, they were in the underground port of Kudlud. The girl said that it was a huge model of the Exos amphibious landing submarine. The base of Atralis was right in front of the sea. If they took advantage of that, they might be able to land right on their base. Liat said he could figure it out. They would secretly move their forces as close to their base as possible, through the water and underground. Then they would take advantage of their weakness and rush in all at once. He also plans to make arrangements for airships to provide cover just in case. Freonir said that defeat was not an option in this battle. They must mobilize all their forces and win. Shiramine was very surprised when he saw Freonir's trembling legs. After a while, Freonir asked Shiramine what he wanted to talk to him about in private, since the plan was already being put into action. The young man said that they didn't have to deploy in the submarine fleet yet, and the food looked delicious. The young man buys some treats, and then sits down and says that he doesn't even know how to ask. Freonir tells the boy that he is quite relaxed. Shiramine says that it is because he believes in her plan. He then looks at the girl and asks if she really does not have confidence in him. Freonir sat down with the boy and said that he seemed to notice. The boy said that after all, they were together every day. Freonir says she's proud of herself for exhausting herself to come up with this plan. However, the head of the Human Army Intelligence Bureau, Daiwauser, is a scary man. In the past, when the peace between demons and humans was broken, and during the last Great War, whenever the demons faced hardships, every time they saw the shadow of this man. This Atralia is not something that can be built in a few weeks. She fears that during the previous Great War, he foresaw their counterattack, and they are simply dancing to his tune. Daiwauser is in Atralia. She fears that she failed to properly prepare them, in which case she can't help but feel incompetent to drive Daiwauser away. She needs something that will allow them to identify him. Shiramine told the girl to eat what he bought because the food was very tasty. He tells the girl that she is not herself. If she can't handle something, he will cover for her, fighting like crazy. The young man asks the girl if she remembers that he said that as long as they are together, they are invincible. The girl called the boy's name and asked for his forgiveness, and then began to eat the delicious food. Suddenly, Freonir screamed that it was very spicy. The boy asked if the girl really could not stand sweets. She asked the boy how he could eat something so spicy. The boy replied that it was probably because his world was full of spicy food. The girl then told the boy that now that he had mentioned it, the girl was curious about what kinds of food existed in her world. The boy replied that, oddly enough, they were not much different from these. For example, that lizard man's spicy food is similar to Indian food. Also, similarly, the spicy Mexican food is similar to what that bird lady makes. As for alcohol, in his world, he was too young to drink it, so he doesn't know. Freonir said that she even thought about visiting his world after the war, but if the food is not that different, then the excitement of trying new dishes is lost. The young man asks again about his world. She asks if the girl really knows how to get into his world. The girl replies that on the one hand she doesn't, but on the other hand, Dewasser does. Then they just need to grab him and make him tell them. Suddenly, Mi interrupts them and says that she finally found them. She did what the boy and girl asked her to do, so she told them to come to the workshop. Freonir apologizes and says that she forgot about it. Ni agrees and says that she has a question for the boy, so everything is fine. She asks the boy that when he saw Atralia, he mumbled something, and apparently, he has some idea. The young man said he just thought it looked like a weapon from his world, although it is not actually used. He is talking about an electromagnetic induction weapon, a railgun. This is something from his world, so he doesn't know if he gave a good example. The girl said that when the cannon fired, they observed an electromagnetic wave, so the boy may not be so far from the truth. However, she did not believe that it fired solid projectiles and that it was too old-fashioned. The young man asked if weapons using solid projectiles were really rare. Freonir says that, in essence, since the techniques ultimately release more combat power. Moreover, solid projectiles are not able to break through barriers. One of the few ways to fight against a barrier is the anti-barrier technique. Anti-barrier techniques allow you to break through a barrier by attacking it. Techniques have zero duration, so they can't be loaded into bullets. Technique-loaded bullets can't penetrate barriers. Even Takenisms are too big to fit into bullets now. However, it's a different story if we're talking about a projectile that can fit into the massive Atralia. Considering that the Arcana can't deflect her attack, it must have a large mechanism. The young man agreed and said that, in addition, the huge mass and super speed increase the impulse to such an extent that it is beyond common sense. In any case, now they know what they are up against, so they can come up with countermeasures. Freonir asks if they can build the railgun themselves. Ni says it's difficult, and the most they can do is the shell. The rest the guys will have to do with their lasso. The girl added that they still lacked combat power. By gathering all the Techanisms in Cold Blood, they had a blast radius of about 100 kilometers. Freonir says that's not even close. Ni continues and says that, frankly, Atralia's power is abnormal. Even if they assume that the entire Foundation contains Techanisms that feed it energy to increase its firepower, it still won't be enough for its power. Freonir said that this could be enough if technology was used. Connections of thousands of people. The scale is unimaginable. However, users will not be able to get out unpunished. It doesn't seem like a viable plan, but she thinks flying 100 kilometers is crazy. Suddenly, she starts talking about something, and then she realized something and looked up at the sky. The girl fell into a pond. The boy said he thought there was a change in their plan. Ni asked what had suddenly happened. The girl emerged and began to laugh. Shiramine guessed the girl's expression. Freonir said that she understood how to identify him one step at a time. After a while, the action moved to the training ground where Amelia fought. They trained against a robot warrior. The man who was watching the fight said that the girl was very fast, but the girl should not be distracted. Amelia used a sweeping attack. At that moment, a human army soldier named Monica Molfier said that it was simply unbelievable, and the girls destroyed 10 Kriegers with one blow, using only physical force. The man said that he even tried his best, because she said that if they won, they could do with them whatever they wanted. The girl told Amelia not to see such promises without her consent. Amelia smiled awkwardly and apologized. Amelia asked the master to say something to the girl. Dayhauser said that it seemed that both girls were not wasting their time. Monica thought about Amelia and Amelia. They were the personal guard of the director of the Intelligence Bureau of the Human Army. Their origin is unknown, but they appear to be girls of marriageable age. But she does not understand what is with their outrageous prowess. Then the girl noticed how Amelia blushed when Daywowser stroked her head and thought about whether she was really in love with the director. Daywowser said that these girls are special. Their potential is undoubtedly not inferior to the bearer of the Holy Sword, because they were born for this. He was sure that training with these girls had done them good. Monica agreed and said that she expressed her heartfelt gratitude to them for that. She heard a report that the Bligatko coalition had been destroyed, and all those who had surrendered had also been killed by the non-humans. To destroy these inhumans and avenge their fallen brothers, they will not hold back even in training. Dewasser said it was great. Suddenly, there was a whisper that this was not the lie that the master had spread earlier. Amelia whispered and said that this was to once again sow the seeds of hatred in the people who were confident of their overwhelming victory in the last war. Monica said that, frankly, the presence of such strong girls here gives her the feeling that they, the ordinary soldiers, are not really needed here. Monica smiled and said that it was just a joke. Suddenly, Amelia put her scythe to her neck and said that she was a coward because with such feelings, the girl would only interfere with the master's plan to destroy the Inhumans. Suddenly, Amelia stopped Amelia and said that there was no need to worry so much. Amelia was embarrassed. Amelia apologized to Monica and said that Amelia did not understand sarcasm. They can't do it all alone, no matter how strong they are. That's why she wants everyone to help them no matter what. Then Dayhauser told Amelia that it was time for them to go. The girl agreed and said that she would try her best as well. After a while, Dayhauser said it was a good job. If anything happened, he would count on the girls. Amelia agreed and said whatever the master said. At this time, Amelia asked Amelia how she could do this in front of everyone and right in front of the master. Amelia apologized and said that she was really guilty and she was very sorry. Amelia asked the girl to refrain from such actions. Amelia turned to the master and said that instead of waiting for the non-humans who could not even get here, it would be quicker to attack them themselves. Daywowser said that it was not quite so. These 400 kilometers of wasteland are an obstacle for their army. In addition, in Kuldlud, there is a Demon Queen, a bearer of a holy sword and elite troops of non-humans. Before engaging them directly, it's best to repel attacks with Arthralia for now. They track every move with not only tech radars, but other types of radars as well. The current Kuldlud is covered in arcana. If even one car, boat, plane, or other similar equipment goes beyond its boundaries, they will immediately know. Amelia asks if it's possible that then Arthralia won't tear them to pieces before they get to them. Daywowser said that, in contrast, there was a hole in their reconnaissance group. Suddenly, the alarm was sounded. There's movement on the tech radar. There are several planes heading their way from Kuldlud, so everyone needs to get to their posts. Dayhauser said they've made their move. The human army released their general-purpose aircraft, called Flugel, and they took off to destroy their target. Lyot said they confirmed the deployment of several aircraft from Arthralia. They still fell for it. Most of the aircraft from Coolflight are decoy drones, designed to distract air forces from the battle. Even in the wildest human dreams, they could not have imagined that they were already right on their doorstep and had already surrounded Arthralia from all sides. Gloria said that, of course, predicting all the movements, including the underground fortress she gave birth to, was quite a dream. Crossbreeding. Arborean is a special ability of dryads. It allows them to give birth to plant life forms with the characteristics of the partners they are mated with. This fortress was created by combining an ant plant and 2 underground species, a mole genus and an ant genus. The girl said that it was quite difficult to give birth to so many healthy boys, and it seemed to glow. Lyot said that this ability, which should not be shown to Leona. Gloria approached the man and asked what she was wondering. What would happen if they made a child? Lyot started yelling and said not in front of the child. Gloria said that this was a daily occurrence at the camp, so it was okay. Leona told him to just ignore her. Lyot was then approached and asked if the man could turn their plan around. Lyot said that a squadron of submarines was approaching Arthralia, as were they. With Freonir and the Holy Sword-Bearer at the head of the operation, they await their signal to begin. Lyot remembered that didn't he say something. Suddenly, someone turned to General Lyot and said that someone was on top of Arthralia. Lyot thought that the director of the Intelligence Bureau, Daywowser, was there. Already on the front lines at such an early stage of the battle, Dayhauser raised his hand and some flying machines appeared and flew towards the ground. Lyot wondered what these flying things were and if they were really dropping something. At this point, Daywowser said as he'd expected. The young man ordered the second battery of Arthralia to move forward, guns 27 to 39. He ordered them to fire. At that moment, the submarines that were underwater were blown up. Lyot said that this could not happen and their plan was revealed. At this rate, they would be destroyed. So he ordered all underground fortresses to rise to the surface. He ordered a detachment of submarines to support him. Gloria told Lyota to stop, because if their plan was really discovered, then the movement underground would be out too. They emerged from underground and some sorrows activated. Lyot said that these were techno-traps, so he ordered to stop the ascent to the surface. The girl answered that they could not do that. The chain technique was activated. Liat said that it was not that. It even passed through the ground. He ordered all troops to deploy their strongest barriers. Suddenly the seals started to explode. Dayhauser said there were only a couple of ways to slip past the tech radars and get as close to Arthralia as possible. For example, the radar does not cover underground targets and possibly underwater ones. To say that they came up with something original with limited capabilities would be an exaggeration. So the Demon Queen and the bearer of the sacred sword will be here, on the shore, unless they stayed in Kuldlud. Still, he would rather see her rough look before finishing her off. But if he delayed and let her use the lasso, the chance would be lost. Dayhauser ordered Amelia to finish this quickly. They would confirm her death later. He began to raise his hand when the signal sounded. Dayhauser was surprised to see another target on the radar. Suddenly, he noticed a target right nearby. The man began to look around but saw no one. At that moment, a target appeared right above them, which blew up the entire foundation of Artralia. Amelia asked what happened, and Amelia said that everything suddenly exploded. Amelia asked the master what it was, because the plane had arrived from Kuldlud. The man said that it was not so, because the radar had not shown anything so far. He said that the Demon Queen just suddenly appeared, and what did she do? Suddenly Freonir appeared in the sky with Shiramine. 20 minutes before, the action took place in Kuldlud. Nee said it was a bit excessive, using a railgun lasso just to launch yourself upward. Freonir said that it's basically the same as a big gun. They use a railgun, and that way they can launch the plane without using any technology, so they won't show up on radar. With a range of only 100 kilometers, why don't they launch the plane upwards instead of towards Artralia? The girl asked Shiramine what he thought. The boy said he thought they were going to die. The mechanism shouldn't have destroyed their plane, even though his chair had given in. The girl said that by shooting them upwards, how is she going to overcome these 400 kilometers? The young man says that this is the most satisfied expression on the girl's face. Once the plane reaches this point, it will glide at a 40-degree angle, and they will fly 400 kilometers, falling only 10 kilometers. You could say that this is quite a clever trick. The young man said that it was a rather clever trick, one might say. The girl asked him to pick her up. The young man stroked the girl's head and said that she was a good girl. Freonir asked him not to treat her like a child. Then the young man said that he sees the earth and sees the horizon. Freonir asked what the earth is and how the young man pronounces these words. The hero replied that in his world, these are the famous words of the first man who went into space. In addition, in his worlds, they send satellites into space and even build space stations there. He asked if they had any space developments in this world. It was surprising that civilization was developed here. The girl said that no matter how offensive it was to say this, but in this world, space was cursed. The story is about a time when the people of this world were striving for the edge of space. A young man tries to think how they got there. The girl said that every time they passed through the atmosphere, a mysterious explosion occurred, causing them to fall to the ground again and again. So, at some point, the phrase that it was a curse began to spread. Life on this planet is hated by the heavens, which became known as legend. It was the curse of the second moon. The young man looked closely at the moon and noticed something. He thought it was as if someone was looking at him. At that moment, Freonir said that the young man should not worry. The danger she was talking about was far away from them. Then she said that they were already approaching their destination. She turned to Shiramine and told him to get into the escape pod first if he wanted maximum power. She would make these arrogant humans taste the power of demons. She called it the Hammer of the Dark Queen, the Earth Shaker. The girl turned to Dayhauser and said that the lesson he had taught them about how to harness the combined kinetic energy born from extreme altitude, speed, and mass, she would return it to him. The girl talks about the staff of God. There is no rose from God. And then she clarifies about the hypersonic glider. Their counterattack will not be stopped until the day comes when they regain their freedom and glory. Then the girl took the boy by the hand and said that their counterattack would begin. They would take Artralia and Daywowser's head. The man was beside himself with rage. The humans declared an emergency, that their base had been damaged. The air fleet they had destroyed was approaching from Kuldlud. No one understood what had happened in those 10 minutes. The pilot of the plane saw the Demon Queen Freonir and the young man Shiramine. He thought that this was all the work of the Dark Demon Queen, so he aimed his plane straight at them, saying that he would destroy them. The pilot of the plane announced to the commander that they were entering the battle from the first line. Suddenly, he was very surprised. Demon Queen Freonir used the second forbidden technique of the Kingdom Advent reconstruction. All airships were destroyed. The Air Force was instantly destroyed upon its return. Daywazer's second forbidden technique is the manipulation of inorganic substances. He did say that the others should not approach the Demon Queen without his order. He called the human warriors monkeys. At that moment, Freonir laughed very loudly. She commanded the people to tremble in fear, for the Dark Queen Freonir was already here. Shiramine thought that Freonir had that grin on her face again. The girl said that for her allies, she would take Arthralia and the head of the one closest to the human emperor, namely, the head of Daywazer. Daywazer said that he would return these words to Freonir right now. He turns to the Demon Queen and says that if she is gone, the inhuman army will collapse, just like in the previous war. Then suddenly, several people began to emerge from the wreckage. Freonir realized that they were survivors. The girl was attacked, but Shiramine protected her by deflecting the attack with his sword. Suddenly, a warrior robot appeared behind him. He thought that these were Krieger combat mechs. They shouldn't forget about him either. If the enemy approaches Freonir, he will stand in his way. Freonir said that he had already taken significant damage from his Dark Queen's hammer Earthshaker. It seems that they are being forced to move by technology. This means that there is a trap inside the robot. Shiramine did not understand what it was, but suddenly Freonir shouted for the youth to close his eyes and ears. Suddenly, this trap used the Thunderflash technique. Shiramine realized that his eyes could not see and his ears could not hear. Daywowser said that this is why he would kill Shiramine first. Then the sphere explodes. Freonir screams, calling for the young man. Amelia assumed that it was over, but Daywowser noticed the appearance of magical seals that created a barrier. Despite the restrictions, the sword wielders and demon queens used techniques to break through the barrier. A few days ago, in the workshop of Nan in Kulblood, Ni was training with Shiramine. The girl shot the boy right in the chest. Shiramine screamed and asked if the girl was really trying to kill him. Ni said that the boy was not injured because the barrier worked. The barrier significantly reduces damage from techniques and physical impact, but fighters without a barrier risk dying even from small fragments, Freonir warned. Ni said that this is where the special and compact techno barrier Noon comes in. Freonir said that she had instructed her to develop it. Thus, they were saved by it, and Freonir said that she was upset too early. The soldiers of the human army, surprisingly, they are still alive and ready to fight. They must have deployed the barrier quickly and survived the blast from her hammer. She had a good plan while they were in confusion, but they quickly came to their senses. It seems that they are not within the range of the youth's holy sword. Not only that, they already know about her fighting technique and split up to avoid being hit by her fourth arcana. They are all well trained. If more people gather around them, they will be in danger. Shiramine asks what they should do then. Freonir transforms into her adult form and tells the boy that they are using an arcana. The girl then uses the seventh forbidden technique, Wings of Power, Sorcery of Rage. Amelia was very surprised and asked what kind of arcana it was. Amelia said that it was not in her files. Freonir then began using her sweeping attacks. Suddenly, she snapped her finger and everything around her exploded in a huge explosion. The girl said that the power that turns her arcana into blade-like wings is her seventh forbidden technique. She wonders how long it has been since she last used it. The girl discovered Dave Hauser missing, doubting his escape. Shiramine informed her that despite the lack of contact, her body remained adult. Absorbing special blades allows the girl to temporarily retain her original form. The arcana is less powerful and narrowly focused, but is ideal for the current body. Then, the girl asks Shiramine to look. The young man shouted at the girl to be careful. The girl told him to calm down, because he helped catalyze this arcana, so it is not dangerous for her. The soldiers they saw acted in such a way as to counter the sacred sword. Having only this weapon may not protect him from danger, so he may take it with him. It is activated by the will of the young man. Shiramine suggested regrouping with Leota and submarine forces, as the groups were separated and now their task was to support the allies. Suddenly there was a barrier between the girl and the boy. Daywowser smiled. Shiramine said that they were now separated. The boy ordered the girl to step aside. Shiramine was unable to cut through the barrier, which instantly regenerated. Freonir explained that this barrier was unique and was like trying to cut through water. Shiramine said that it was because of that device. Freonir said that it was dangerous to go alone, because there might be traps, so she would not be able to support the boy from that side. Then the girl said that they would split up. She will provide support for the submarines, and Shiramine will regroup with the underground squad. After that, he must destroy the device that activated this barrier. After that, they will reunite. Freonir admitted that without the boy, she would not be able to use the third arcana and would be vulnerable, so she urgently needed to reunite with him. Then they said goodbye, and at the same time said that they were counting on each other. After parting ways, Daywowser told Amelia to take care of the Holy Sword's messenger. Daywowser says that he will personally deal with the Demon Queen. Alina tells the master that it is dangerous for them to separate now, because they have exceeded all their expectations. Daywowser told the girls not to worry about him. At least he won't die, because the girls themselves know about it. Amelia said that if the master was injured, she would not be able to bear it. Daywowser said that if the girl cared about him so much, she should fulfill her role. The girl promised to bring the head of the messenger, satisfying Dowser. Seeing his reaction, Amelia blushed. At this time, Lee had fought with human warriors. He ordered his men to attack and show everyone what a wounded beast can do, although there are more than just beasts here. Suddenly, a huge killer robot appears behind Leon, but he is quickly eliminated by Leona, who controls the robot. Monica is angry. The overconfidence of the beastmen led to losses. While Monica was looking for help, a huge robot approached her. He falls next to her, and the girl asks if it is really a Krieger. Shiramine turns to the girl and says that there will be no reinforcements. After all, he had dealt with them on the way here. Everyone was surprised that the bearer of the sacred sword had arrived here. Liat asked about Freonir's whereabouts. The young man joined in the conversation. Monica trembled, reporting the presence of the owner of the sacred sword and predicting death from the beastmen. Suddenly, Amelia appeared next to her. Amelia said that she couldn't believe that they were so weak in front of the wounded non-humans. It was pathetic. Amelia told Amelia not to say that because they had many wounded as well. Amelia saw Monica's sluggish appearance and sat down to hug her. She told the girl that she had tried hard and that everything would be fine now. Monica wonders if the two heroes can handle the army and the owner of the sacred sword, considering such a task impossible. Amelia suggested killing all the beastmen to please the master. Amelia supported the idea. Amelia came face to face with Shiramine. Shiramine said that the girls looked very lively. Amelia replied that it had been a month since they had last talked like this. At the time, she thought that they could become great friends. The girl asked the boy to give way, as there was a battle with many enemies ahead. The boy expressed gratitude to the girls and doubts about defeating them. Amelia clarified that the task was only to capture the boy. Amelia interrupted Amelia and said that they would deal with them first. Then the girl took off and ran straight to Shiramine. The young man was very surprised. The young man dodged, but the attack landed on the beastman. Shiramine is amazed by the girl's speed, not having time to notice her attack. The young man warns Amelia that if he does not keep up with Amelia, she will use a special technique. The girl orders Shiramine to look at her. Amelia easily slices through the huge maw, demonstrating her increased strength. Shiramine acknowledges her superiority, but Amelia reminds him to watch himself more closely. At that moment, Amelia pressed her braid right to the young man's neck. Shiramine realized that the situation was even worse, but then fought off Amelia. The young man parried the girl's blow, exceeding her expectations. Understanding the threat to the master, Amelia wanted to eliminate the enemy faster. Shiramine noted that the girls had previously intentionally held back their strength. The girls laugh, and the boy thinks that these two are not so simple. Shiramine turns to Leota and Gloria, then tells them to leave him and keep going. They don't seem like easy opponents to deal with. He intends to use the sacred sword to its fullest, so he cannot promise that his allies will not be affected by his attacks. Light smiled and agreed. He said that the young man could leave the destruction of the barrier and the help of Freonir to them. Amelia was surprised and told the beastmen that she had not let them go anywhere. Suddenly, the young man attacked Amelia, and she barely managed to defend herself. Shiramine said that he would not allow the girl to switch to another enemy. Amelia's laughter was interrupted by a powerful blow from Amelia, who threw her scythe at the young man. Amelia said that the master ordered them to take only the boy's head, so this is even easier. The girls turned to Corporal Monica and told her to get ready to intercept the people. Monica ordered her men to stop and said that they could not take a single step because of Amelia and Amelia. The girl realized that the heroes were protecting them from the Inhumans and were able to defeat the owner of the sacred sword, which left her perplexed. At this moment, the young man makes a sweeping attack. Amelia deftly jumps over this air slash. Amelia appears right behind the boy. Amelia smiled and told the boy to look at her. The youth gritted his teeth, but the attack was so strong that he was thrown aside. The youth asked if Amelia's agility and Amelia's strength were really equal to the holy sword. The young man thought that this was not all either. There was something else, namely, this strange feeling, as if they were reading his movements. Amelia asks if the young man really thinks that people have done nothing in the last 10 years since the last Great War. The holy sword originally belonged to them, the humans. They have fully studied it and the abilities and capabilities of the holy sword. That's why, before trying to summon an heir to the sword like the youth, they tried to make an artificial analog. The possibility of creating artificial non-humans to form a strong warrior capable of returning the sacred sword, replacing the real carrier, was considered. In the end, the project ended with no suitable ones being produced. Shiramine asked the girls if they really were them. Amelia said that the master had taken them away as a defect. The girl says that she will live up to the master's expectations. Then the girls began to attack the boy together. The protagonist understood what the girls meant by the complete examination of the sacred sword. Amelia said that everything was exactly like this when he first took this sword. This sword taught her how to fight. Judging by the young man, he has never held a sword in his hands, but he fights like an unrivaled warrior, and thus, she will say that they also fully studied the manual for using the sacred sword, all so that they would undergo a program to defeat the heir of the sacred sword in a few days, if he decided to betray them. Shiramine realizes that, now that he thinks about it, when they arrived in Artralia, he would have already been dead if Freonir had not been there. Then Amelia calls Amelia. The girl approaches her and says that everything is accepted. Amelia uses a single technique. Great Maw of the Dust Eater. A huge stone jaw appears. The young man tries to dodge, but suddenly Amelia appears in front of him. The combination of the power of the sacred sword and the arcana of the Dark Queen creates a tenacious blade that allows one to predict the actions of a young man. The girl strikes him and Shiramine realizes that he cannot defend himself. Suddenly, he looks up and sees Amelia there rushing straight towards the boy. Shiramine realizes that due to this wound, he will not be able to stop the girl's attack. Instead, he releases the sacred sword from his hands. The girl then shows the boy one of the features of the sacred sword. A huge explosion is heard, which is heard by Gloria and Liet. Gloria says she is very curious if everything is okay with the boy. Then Liet comes to Gloria and says he has a request for the girl. At this time, Amelia announced checkmate. The boy asked where his holy sword was. At that moment, Amelia held the holy sword in her braid. Amelia said that they pinned the boy down. She then added that she still doesn't know the boy's name. Shiramine states her name and asks if the girl really intends to kill him. And then why is she asking his name? Amelia puts on an innocent face and asks if they can put an end to this. The girl then starts laughing nervously and apologizes to Amelia so that the girl gives her some time. Amelia said that the master ordered them to deal with the boy, but to be honest, she does not want to. Amelia at this moment thinks that Amelia again does whatever she wants. Amelia said that for their own convenience, they dragged the boy into the struggle of their world, and accidentally he turned against them. Now they need to kill you, because it is simply too selfish. She just thought that the boy and she could become good friends. She means that they are about the same age, and Shiramine is a very good person. The girl dreamed of traveling with the owner of the sacred sword, visiting favorite places and creating shared memories. She imagined all sorts of things. Shiramine thought that this girl, she is different from other people. At least she does not harbor hostility towards him. He wonders if the girl will reject him. Amelia tells Shiramine to turn his back on the non-humans. She offers the boy to bring the non-humans to complete extinction together. If the boy does this, she is sure that they will have another chance to become good friends. Shiramine begins to get angry. He asks the girl if she at least knows why he took the side of the non-humans. They mock, kill them, who have done nothing wrong. And the girl wants to say that he will have to follow this. If you think about it for a moment, they were just trampling people in the same merciless way. He would never take part in something like that. Amelia shouted that they had done nothing wrong. She repeats the words that they live in such a world and says that there is nothing like that. Amelia stops the girl and says that it is classified. Amelia says that they are doing everything right, so Shiramine should go with them. The Inhumans perceive the young man solely as a tool, ready to get rid of him after use. Shiramine criticizes such a selfish approach. Amelia replies that it is because that is what non-humans are. The boy is here by force. He knows nothing about non-humans, let alone this world. If things continue like this, she will have to take his life. So, the girl asks the boy to listen. Shiramine was very surprised and looked at Amelia's embarrassed face. Suddenly, Shiramine says that the food of the reptile lizard he often visits is incredibly tasty, and the spices are just right. It turns out that Freonir does not tolerate spicy food well. Reptiles' temperature is unstable, so they rarely experience hunger, feeding once every few days, which eliminates the need for regular feeding. As far as he knew, they mostly ate bugs. That's when he realized that they had different preferences. He would appreciate it if they changed their appearance. Amelia was very surprised that they ate bugs, and animal tailors don't really bother with the concept of summer and winter clothing. That's because they change their clothes for summer and winter. He also asked Leota for a photo. However, animals with a small amount of fur, especially half-breeds and mixed bloods, do not need a winter coat. Reptiles change their clothes according to the season, enjoying the changing fashion. Summer clothes are thinner than winter clothes, but the materials are light and thin. Waterfowl have different hygiene preferences. Some like baths, others like showers. Life next to them is full of surprises, Amelia notes, surprised by the diversity of habits of non-humans. Shiramine says that it is true that he is not from this world. He is just an outsider who was summoned to this world a little over a month ago. However, for a month he fought and lived with Freonir and the other non-humans. He only watched them, and I have never seen them as cruel as Amelia portrays them. He still doesn't regret his decision to go with Freonir and strike back with her. Then the young man asks, what about Amelia? These non-humans before her eyes live in the same world as the girl. At the same time, she doesn't even know what she eats, what they see, and what they think. He asks what right she has to say that non-humans are bad. He doesn't understand what kind of justice this girl believes in so much. She decided to do all this, even without seeing the real thing with her own eyes. Amelia is surprised. She replies that it doesn't matter what she saw with her own eyes. She was taught the truth well, and only people should be on this earth, because that's enough. Then the girl asks what Shiramine knows. She asks him why he doesn't believe her. Aren't they both human? Why is he the only one on the side of the Dark Queen and not the humans? The girl accuses the Demon Queen of manipulating the boy's mind. Promising to cure him later, Amelia attacks the boy with a magical thorn, advising him to endure the pain. She said that the Demon Queen had deceived him, so she would kill her and bring her head straight to the boy. If she does this, she is sure that the young man will come to his senses. Shiramine realizes Freonir's weakness in front of Amelia and Amelia. Amelia inquires about the master's order, but Amelia ignores her comments. Shiramine wondered if he had anything left, since Freonir also believed in him. He couldn't let them go without trying. Suddenly, the boy hears a sound. Then Shiramine said that he completely forgot that he could also rely on Freonir. He reaches his hand to his back, where the Freonir lasso was. Suddenly, there was a powerful explosion, and the young man was thrown to the side. The young man flew up and tried to take the sacred sword. Amelia said that they knew that the youth had obtained the Arcana Wing. It was beyond his expectations that the youth would resort to such an aggressive method, to try to retrieve the sacred sword even if he had a barrier. The girl uses her scythe and strikes the boy. Suddenly she notices the wing of the Arcana. Suddenly the force attacks right on her back. The girl realizes that it was a bait made from a lasso wing. The young man said that he had never practiced this before, but it seemed that it really was activated by his will, and it was much better than he had imagined. Suddenly Amelia runs to Amelia. Amelia said that she was careless and he had another wing, although they knew that wings can be multi-layered. The girl thinks that what is more problematic is his quick decision-making and reaction speed. Most likely due to the power of the wings, he was able to get around her from behind in an instant. He is not just using a holy sword. She was careful with him, but not careful enough. This man was much more dangerous than she thought. The boy said that he would not let them reach Freonir. The young man turns to Amelia, and Amelia, and says that he will destroy them here and now. Amelia said that the boy was just pretending. After all, isn't he barely able to stand on his own 2 feet? And above all, they already know all his achievements, so why shouldn't he just be obedient? Next time, her attack will be much more painful. Shiramine thinks that this is the last arcana. This roof of the arcana contains the power of Freonir, but he also has control over it. Then he can use it in another way. The youth connects the wing of the arcana with a sacred sword. The youth clenches his teeth, and his eye takes on a different color. The girls don't understand what's going on there. Amelia says that he's using the wing as a medium to extract the arcana power from the sacred sword. He's going to use the arcana without the Demon Queen Freonir. The young man reflects on his conversation with Freonir, asking her about the reasons for the limited use of the arcana 3 times a day, suggesting a mana deficit. Freonir clarifies the meaning of the term mana. This is directly related to life. In order to use the absolute power that arcana possesses, it takes the life of the user. Therefore, arcana are called forbidden techniques. It takes 1 in the million means to engrave the seal needed to control the arcana. The girl's arcana requires a special approach. Limiting 3 activations per day reduces risks. But Shiramine hints that the limits can be overcome. But such a decision puts his life on the line. It is certainly hundreds of times more intense than he thought. Amelia appears right above the boy. Who said whether the boy really thought that they would just wait for the boy to hit? Suddenly, something sticks out of the ground right between them. Amelia and Shiramine are surprised. Leah and Gloria appear from the earthen cocoon. Leah immediately attacks Amelia. Amelia says that if he gets in their way, he will also die. Suddenly, she feels something. Amelia is bound by the huge amount of plants that Gloria released. Shiramine reminded Gloria and Liet of the need to retreat. Liet stressed the importance of mutual assistance between allies. Shiramine laughed and then said that he knew he had made the right choice in choosing to fight alongside the non-humans. The youth then finished using the activation and used the 4th forbidden technique. Curses of the explosion of shining destruction of existence. Amelia said that it was not good, and they could not avoid it. Amelia immediately used the Great Dust Eater Maw at full power. During the attack, Amelia remembered the conversation with the master. The girl asked about the bearer of the sacred sword. Daywazer confirmed only the compatibility of his code with the sword. The rest of the data is unknown. Dayhauser hopes he'll be nice, but then asks the girls to get along with him. Suddenly here, he won't know the line between up and down after all. Amelia thought that the messenger of the Holy Sword might be like them. Amelia thought that they were the ones who had placed their hopes on the Holy Sword. All this time, without knowing why, the master raised the girl, passing on knowledge that makes her happy. Wanting to share her experience with the hero, she laughs sadly, watching her weapon break and disintegrate. Liet was surprised that Shiramine could do this. The boy's legs buckled, and Gloria asked if he was okay. Shiramine began to choke and thought that he had pulled out all he could. This could hardly be considered a lasso. However, looking at Amelia and Amelia, he said that this jewel was his. He looked at Amelia and mentally thanked her for her sincere concern for him. But this was something he had decided for himself with his own eyes. Liet said that it was time for them to go. Amelia ordered them not to move because she had not lost yet. The master who saved them when they should have been destroyed. She would never let them reach him. Freonir reports the barrier's destruction thanks to Shiramine's efforts. Seeing the wounded hero, the girl intends to heal him. But Liet draws attention to a new threat. He pointed to a huge field where there were many dead beastmen and humans. Freonir said that the entire underwater detachment was destroyed along with the human army. All this was done single-handedly by Daywazer. Gloria clarified the man's status, noting his humanity. Freonir confirmed the destruction around her arrival, noting the man's use of weapons. Shiramine is interested in the ancient weapon, claiming that it is incapable of penetrating the barrier. Freonir agrees, clarifying that it is not exactly a weapon. There must be something else here. They must not be hasty. However, it would be true to say that they have cornered him. He is now inside Arthralia. They are going there because everything will be decided within Arthralia. The arriving beastmen encountered the solid door of Arthralia. Shiramine confidently swung his sword, instantly destroying the barrier. Freonir said that the boy's condition seemed to be normal. It was worth it to cure the boy, but she never thought that the boy would use the arcana power alone. She would not have given the boy wings knowing that the boy would do something so dangerous. Shiramine said that he had no choice. If he had not done this, he would not have been able to defeat Amelia and Amelia. The girl herself understands this. Freonir said that whatever it was, she had given the arcana much more powerfully, and then his wounds would not have been healed, because the young man was on the verge of death. Shiramine said that he understood. The young man was amazed by the force of the arcana's recoil, underestimating its intensity. Meanwhile, Gloria watches him, and Freonir announces the beginning of the final phase. Once inside, the heroes discovered the railgun, a giant electromagnetic cannon that controlled the continent with its powerful shot. Capturing the cannon will ensure victory in the battle. Liana said that when the land and sea forces were defeated, she was worried about what would happen next. Liat replied that he was barely able to stand when Freonir and the bearer of the sacred sword appeared from the sky. Freonir said that the humans used an interesting method to separate her and Shiramine, but they were no match for them. Shiramine said that the girl was always so smug, although he was in a difficult position at the time. Gloria added that while their losses were far from light, overall they were in a good position, or so she thought. Liat responded that this was precisely why he wanted to get rid of any remaining anxiety while there was still time. The hero inquires about the reason for the destruction of the fleet. The girls confirmed Daywowser's involvement, saying that after splitting with Shiramine, Freonir went to the submariners. Separated from the sword's wielder, Freonir was attacked by the mob. She deflected the attacks with a smile, then flew up and began to cause explosions in front of her, provoking more attacks. The opponents assessed the power of Freonir's arcana as normal, deciding to suppress it with numbers. Realizing the exposure of her plan, Freonir is disappointed by the weakness of her own trick. She said that since it had come to this, she would use a smokescreen. The soldiers did not understand where this queen was, so they could not let her go. At this time, Freonir escaped under the box. The seventh arcana is multifunctional, but weak for the final blow and massive attacks. The next sight shocked the heroine. She saw how the beastmen destroyed the army of people. They said that at first it seemed like they were at a disadvantage, but in the end, it was the non-humans who would win. The human males said that even before the Demon Queen's attack, they had sunk their entire fleet without any problem. But most of these beastmen were amphibious fishermen who could breathe underwater. Freonir thought that it seemed like the humans only intended to fight their ground forces using Artralia's war supplies. Therefore, there weren't many soldiers here, and with the difference in strength, their morale is at its lowest. She thinks that this battle is almost won even if she doesn't meet Shiramine. She calls them worthless, and wonders if these are really the people who deserve to be the rulers of this world. Suddenly, the human army announced that the director of the human army's intelligence bureau, Daywowser, had come to see them. The beastmen thought that this was a big catch. If they took his head, they would become heroes. Suddenly, cannons appeared from the wall where Daywowser was standing, activating the large barrier of Arthralia that was protecting her. The beastman then noticed that Daywowser was holding something in his hands. It was something that looked like a weapon. Suddenly, he fired and destroyed several beastmen. Freonir was very surprised. The army of beastmen seemed to crumble. She also noticed that the bullets were following their targets. First of all, she had not heard of a gun that would shoot through the barrier. Daywowser said that there were too many beastmen, so his allies would also be dragged into this. But he didn't care. He said that all the human soldiers were killed by the ruthless non-humans. Then he transforms his weapon. He uses this as propaganda to fan the flames of revenge. Freonir noticed that the shape of the weapon was changing. Daywowser then fires his weapon straight into the sky, illuminating the area with a bright light. Suddenly, a multitude of bullets rained down from the beam. Freonir was surprised that it was only from one shot. He killed them all, including the people. She doesn't understand what just happened and whether it really is a weapon. Daywowser said that's what he would do. Leaving the battlefield, the man inquires about the sister's situation. The surviving beastman is stopped by Freonir, who offers treatment. The man pulls a bullet out of his chest and hands it to the girl, then tells the Demon Queen to avenge them. After a while, Freonir said that the bullet that Daywowser fired had some kind of small, ingenious mechanism in it, and she had never seen anything like it before. Human engineering innovations had gone so far, she wonders why they haven't received any information about this. Such a significant advance in 10 years since the Great War is too abnormal. The man who gave Freonir the bullet tried to make a guess about the bullet. Freonir said she had no idea, but that didn't change the fact that it was abnormal. Shiramine was surprised that the man was okay. Freonir said that this could work in their favor. She turned to Gloria and told her to analyze these bullets, and then Gloria agreed. Shiramine laughed and said that Ni had said that Artralia's firepower itself was also a mystery. They were talking about 1,000 people participating in Link or something similar. Freonir asked if the young man was really talking about Link technology. This method of providing energy using living people, the energy of Link technologies grows with the number of participants. But so does the danger of backlash. More than 10 participants are risky. More than 80 are unsafe, says Freonir. That the young man's answer was right in front of them. There was a huge door in front of them. Gloria said that these large towers must be the source of the power. Freonir said that they are just part of the mechanism. She can assume that the cylinders protruding outward are the sources of power. However, she is visited by some strange feeling, because there is no one here and yet it seems as if there are thousands of people here. She approaches one of the capsules and says that it is hard to see what is inside these cylinders. Suddenly the girl shudders, and then the rest of the beastmen scream. One of these capsules contained a head. Gloria said that these capsules contained the heads of living beastmen. Shiramine was so disconcerted that he even covered his mouth with his hand. He said that this was the origin of Arthralia and its firepower. Suddenly, Daywowzer appeared and said that in order to maintain Arthralia's firepower, 1,000 people were not enough. Each time the return was unstable. Usually, it is impossible to form a process using the Link Tech method. However, they managed to stabilize the technology by successfully implementing the Link Tech method into it. Of course, they couldn't do anything about the recoil, so after a few shots, everyone's brain is destroyed and they die. So during the process of reloading the weapon for a few hours, the batteries are disposed of and replaced with new ones. He asks if they think that's fast enough. He presses a button and says that they have successfully automated it. Suddenly, several tied-up beastmen appear right in front of him, with capsules under their heads. He says they are prisoners of war, captured during the last Great War. Shiramine said he thought they had defeated the Imperial Coalition. Freonir said the human army had more than one such camp. She said that it seemed that they were attached to this mechanism. The bound beastmen cursed Daywowzer, but one girl asked him to spare them. The girl said that she would do whatever the man said. At that moment, Daywowzer said that it was an interesting proposition. Then he hit the girl. He said that he would not allow his ears to hear the words of the monster. He ordered them to know their place. At this moment, all the bound beastmen were placed in capsules with water. Suddenly, a sharp mechanism began to narrow on the necks of the beastmen. Freonir said that this had to be stopped. She used her lasso and fired it straight towards the capsules. The freed beastmen freed themselves and the remaining ones caught them. Leah told Freonir that it was well done. At that moment, the girl took the capsule and told Shiramine to take a look. The capsule's opening has blades. Once the head is placed here, it will be cut off from the body. Daywowzer said that was a great guess. As soon as this happens, many wires are immediately connected to them, becoming a source of energy and optimally using your life for its intended purpose. He shows some capsules and says that it is something like this. Freonir points out that there are more of them. In this way, he uses their lives as a toy. Shiramine was horrified. Daywowzer continues and says that the remaining bodies are then compressed and used as warheads for the Arthralia. It's also worth adding that the power supply also automatically replaces empty spaces. Now that he thinks about it, everything is already complete. He throws the capsule and says it's a gift. Shiramine and Freonir pursue the capsule. As they say goodbye, Daywowzer explains that he will survive for a maximum of 3 hours without contact with the pillars. The next moment, Freonir and Shiramine used their lasso and began to attack Daywowzer. The man took out his gun and fired at the lassos. Then Shiramine appeared above Daywowzer and rushed straight towards him. He screams that he will never forgive him for this. Daywowzer replied that it is better for the young man not to put pressure on himself, because he is already at the limit. Suddenly the boy's wounds opened up. The boy couldn't stand it and fell. Freonir said that it was bad, and then called Gloria. The girl replied that she understood and pulled Shiramine to her. Freonir asked Shiramine what had happened and what Daywowzer had done to him. She puts her hand on his shoulder and realizes that she had felt the backlash from the Arcana. Gloria said that before meeting the girl, they tried to heal him many times, but his body quickly fell apart again and again. Freonir said that this is a terrible state. This is the price for using the wing of the 7th Arcana as an activation of the power. Most likely, the body will not stop deteriorating until Shiramine dies. Is the punishment for breaking a taboo really that severe? Daywowser said that Amelia and Amelia's loss was unexpected, but they still fulfilled their role, and the Holy Sword Envoy was now useless. Then Daywowser presses a button and the huge pillars start glowing. Freonir says that Artralia is activating. Daywowser stated that the target was the fortress city of Coldlid. All the beastmen were surprised. Daywowser continued and said that the main stronghold of the beastmen is protected by Arcana. Even the weapons of Atralia cannot penetrate it. However, what is its location? While on the shores of Collude, the girl asks Freonir's opinion about the consequences of the destruction of the surrounding cliffs. She suspects that Davyuser's blunders were a trick. Daywowser added that the entire Coldblood would sink to the bottom of the ocean. Suddenly, a ladder appears. Daywowser says that if Freonir wants to stop him, he will wait outside. The equipment here is fragile and he would not want to damage it. Freonir asks him to stop. Daywowser said that their fortress of the Inhumans will soon disappear, and the next one will be the Dark Queen. After that, the whole world will be disinfected from them, the monsters. He asks the girl to let him hit her back. Freonir calls the man a complete bastard. Light said that they would never allow Daywowser to do this. Freonir looks at Shiramine, who apologized to them for being useless at such a critical moment. Freonir assures the young man that she has completed the task. The third arcana is capable of neutralizing any techniques, and the first arcana is ready for use. Shiramine put his hand out and said that the girl couldn't do it right now. The youth said that Daywowser had a counter to his holy sword style. Their trump card would be unwise to waste the girl's last arcana. Calling Freonir a partner, the hero asks to punish Daywowser, protecting loved ones and the people of Coldlid. After regaining his strength, he will join her. The usual therapy will help recovery. Freonir clenched her fist and then turned to Gloria and said that she was leaving the healing of Shiramine to her. She then turns to Liat and asks him to assign her some of his subordinates. Liat agrees and says that he will leave some for Shiramine's treatment and some for security. Freonir turns to Shiramine. He says that he will wait for her. Nosha agrees. He holds onto his sword and looks at his departing comrades. Gloria turns to Shiramina and asks him if he realizes that his body is decomposing faster and faster, so she doesn't know how much their technique will be able to heal him. Shiramine asks Gloria to make him move again, because 10 would be enough. Gloria asks why everyone from the world of youth is so indifferent to their lives. The girl thinks that she just needs to make it so that he can move on his own for a short time. She thinks that she can do it. However, if after this fight Freonir uses up all of his arcana once before she can use them again, she is almost certain that his body will not be able to withstand it. Suddenly, Gloria hears someone whispering. She turns and looks at the pillars with the capsules. The beastmen's heads whispered that the humans and their hatred brought them this fate. Gloria said that perhaps these are the voices of those connected to these pillars. Under the influence of the link tech effect, the feeling of resentment increases. The beastmen claim that Shiramine does not belong to humans, surround him with wires and threaten to interfere with his actions. Suddenly, these wires overcome them and attack Gloria. The beastmen and Shiramine see that these wires begin to penetrate directly to Gloria. At this time, Daywowser stood under the base of Artralia. A group of beastmen appeared, and the man turned to Freonir and said that the girl was in no hurry. He shows her a screen of the walled city and asks if she can really see it clearly, that is, the nest of their invasive species. He could sink it right now with Arthralia, but the humans had been dealt a serious blow this time, so his mood wouldn't be calmed by just that. He calls the Demon Queen to come to him and says that he will abuse, trample, and devastate her. All this time she will feel despair and powerlessness, drowning in her own blood. He invites her to make this spectacle real. Daywowser invites the Dark Queen to come to him, and then he will bring her to her knees, sinking the nest of her invasive species right before her eyes. Freonir shouted at Daywowser and said that she would not allow him to have his own way anymore. Many magical attacks flew at the man. Daywowser summoned Aegis. He fired magic bullets that transformed into shields. Liat and Freonir were surprised that these were barriers and how he could use them so much. Then Daywowser started shooting and killed the beastmen who were standing right behind Freonir. The girl realized that she couldn't even stop the boy's attacks. He continued shooting at the beastmen. The male beastmen said that these were the same bullets that had shot them. Freonir shouted that they had to do something about the barriers. Liat said that he had accepted the command. Then he started to deflect Daywowser's bullets. Freonir was very surprised. Liat rushed towards Dayhauser, deflecting his bullets. He said that all they had to do was cut these bullets into pieces. Liat broke through Dayhauser's barriers with the Blood Street technique, impressing Freonir with his capabilities. The beastmen took advantage of the moment, so they rushed to Liat, supporting the general. Dayhauser grinned and called Armas. His guns were like some powerful cannons. He started shooting thousands of bullets. Liat's swords cracked, and he was surprised that this was some absurd storm of bullets. Freonir said that this was not good. Leona, controlling the robot, shielded her father from the bullets. Then Dayhauser summoned Giselle, which looked like a long cannon. He shot Leona's robot and destroyed her robot. Leona flew off it. After being shot 3 times, Liat saves his daughter by losing consciousness. The strange shape of Dawser's weapon baffles him. By pointing his gun at Leota, Dawser emphasizes his role as the leader of the elite Inhumans, known for his outstanding strategy since the last war. It seems that he is not that strong in reality. Suddenly, Freonir appears behind Dayhauser and attacks between Liat and Dayhauser, protecting General Liat. Dayhauser jumps aside. Freonir calls him a scumbag, and then she touches the wing of her lasso. The girl uses this wing to strengthen her body and gain an adult form. The girl says that she will stop him. Dayhauser calls it a funny joke and then fires several bullets towards Freonir, using her wings to fly. Freonir recalls Nia's stories about her collection of ancient weapons, but she has never encountered one so unusual and capable of transformation. The weapon of Dayhauser is strange. There are no traces of gunshots and smoke. Probably a special technique is at work. Gloria's investigation will help to find out the truth. He said that this was quite the right answer. Freonir was surprised, and suddenly the bullet reached her shoulder. Freonir healed herself and said she didn't have time to think about it properly. The girl said that since she was at a disadvantage against the weapon, she would attack its blind spot. Freonir appears right next to the man and attacks him with his foot. Dayhauser blocked the attack with his weapon and told the girl not to touch him. He yelled about damn invasive species. The man then pointed the gun at Freonir's crowbar, and she used the wing of the lasso. There was a mutual explosion. The man dodged to the side, and Freonir also dodged to the side. The attacks continue for a long time. Liat is confident of equal chances with Freonir at close range. She is surprised by the enemy's inhuman, almost divine maneuvers. The young man then transformed the weapon into Serranos. Freonir was surprised that the weapon split. Suddenly, a volley of shots began to fire. The girl realized that her wings were destroyed. The girl said that since she no longer had wings, then all that was left was to go into hand-to-hand combat. Dayhauser says that Freonir doesn't know when to give up, then shoots her through the wings, causing her to fall to the side. Dayhauser pins her head to the ground with his foot. He says it's best for invasive species to crawl on the ground. Just like that. Under fire from Dayhauser, Wyatt calls Freonir. The enemy's victory is obvious. The goal is to capture the image of the destruction of the Inhuman refuge. Suddenly, a signal came that Artralia's preparation for the shot was complete. Freonir pulled the last wing of the Arcana from her chest and asked Dayhauser if he really thought she would allow it. Dayhauser's shot damages the girl's lasso wing, destroying the last remaining technique. Liat realizes the futility of resistance. Dayhauser announced that the finale had now arrived and the Artralia discharge would be released. Freonir asked everyone for forgiveness. The girl then said that she would leave the rest on Shiramine. Suddenly, the place under Dayhauser exploded. Shiramine flew out from there and threw Dayhauser up into the air. Freonir lay on the ground and asked Shiramine to stop Artralia. The youth used the skill of the tenacious blade of anxiety and aimed it straight at Artralia. The cannon fired its shot. The people of Cold Blood notice Artralia's shot and are frightened despite the protection of the Arcana. Upon learning of the miss, the beastmen rejoice at the city's salvation. Freonir smiled and told Shiramine that he had been gone for a long time. The young man agreed and said that he had been a little late. Climbing up, Shiramine saw Freonir's problems through the transparent ceiling. Realizing what was happening, the girl heard the steps of the healed youth. Then the young man turned his attention to Freonir's wings. He looked at all the beastmen and said that Dayhauser does whatever he wants. Dayhauser figured out the enemy's plan, but was amazed by the hero's quick healing with a normal technique, despite the influence of the Arcana. Shiramine said that it was an unfinished technique of the tenacious blade. This strike was not a direct hit, thanks to the floor acting as a damper. But how can he stand? Or rather, underneath Daywowser's clothing was some sort of exoskeleton. Daywowser's exoskeleton enhances his physical strength, protects him with automatic barriers, and heals wounds with nanotechnology. The hero declares that he is not in danger of being defeated. Daywowser compensates for his lack of abilities with a tech suit and nanobots. This is the first time Freonir has heard of such technology belonging to Daywowser's world. He turns to Daywowser and asks if he is really from this world. Daywowser agrees and says that he is a human, a legitimate human in this world, just like Shiramine. The damage to Artralia's targeting system caused by the youth's attack has left the platform unable to aim, requiring extensive repairs. Rethinking his strategy, Daywowser intends to destroy all the beastmen and display their heads to the public, plunging the city into despair before the flood. Shiramine boldly suggests that he begin. Now that he and Freonir were together, they could not be defeated. It was time to end all this. Then, Freonir calls Shiramine. He says that all of her 7th Arcana wings were destroyed by Daywowser, so she is somewhat useless. The girl then transforms into her younger form. She apologizes and says that she won't be able to help the boy much. Shiramine asks the girl that she still has that trump card, her 3rd Arcana, which is her decisive blow. Recognizing the young man's rightness, the girl suggests joining forces with the 7th Arcana. Having received Shiramine's warning, she learns of the completion of the bullet's analysis, canceling the Arcana's activation. To accurately neutralize Daywowser, they will need the girl for the winning blow, because he can change his weapon. Freonir agrees and says that his biggest threat is his weapon. It transforms and can also shoot through barriers. Understanding the structure of the technique allows you to neutralize even weak techniques of the 3rd Arcana. Daywowser's weapon will lose its effectiveness, becoming a useless toy. Shiramine says that, in principle, victory is guaranteed. Then he notices Freonir. The girl looks at the analyzed bullets and realizes that all these techniques are unknown to her. Her 3rd Arcana is activated by including the technique's target into it. In this case, she can't activate it that easily. Gloria's analysis only determines the model of the mechanism, while Freonir is fluent in most known techniques. However, if she doesn't know the technique's analysis, she can't add it as a target to her Arcana. Shiramine thinks that it's like something like introducing a virus into a vaccine. Shiramine asks what it means that if the girl analyzes it herself, she will be able to activate the 3rd Arcana. Freonir said that it will take time. The girl grabbed Shiramine's hand and told him to stop, because Daywowser was strong and he had not yet recovered from the recoil of the lasso. Suddenly, the girl noticed something and started talking about the boy's body. Shiramine told the girl not to worry and just leave it to him. He could deal with him before the girl finished her analysis. He then calls Daywowser and says that he is surprisingly kind to wait for them for so long. Something like that does not deserve gratitude. She just needed some time to fully heal from his technique's attack. It seemed like they were planning something, but it would all be in vain. The answer they came up with would only lead him to victory. Shiramine said that the man was spewing such a pompous speech. The young man tries to knock the smile off Daywowser's face using a familiar technique. Shiramine distracts the enemy with a large-scale attack. Daywowser jumps into the air. Shiramine thought that Daywowser had dodged for just a moment after looking at him. As he had guessed, he had also undergone the anti-holy sword program. Having defended herself from Daywowser's bulletstorm, Shiramine ironically thanks her opponent for his generosity. He thinks that this is not just the anti-holy sword program. It feels like he is shooting from the shortest possible distance. After realizing Daywowser's plans, Freonir and Shiramine realize that the anti-sword program was created by optimizing the Holy Sword's leadership. He transplanted this program into himself. That is, as if Shiramine and he possess the absolute spear. Only he has a shield to protect himself from the spear. Even a monkey could tell who had the advantage here. Shiramine asked if that meant the sacred sword wasn't humanity's trump card. Then why would they summon someone like him from an alternate universe? The sacred sword is valuable not for its program optimization or special techniques, but for its ability to save and heal the world, explains Daywowser. The reason for humanity's quest. Shiramine asked what it meant. Daywowser said that was enough with that. He uses an echo-blinding grenade. Suddenly, a gun barrel appeared right in front of the boy's head. Daywowser declared checkmate. Liet and Leona began to worry about the bearer of the sword, Shiramine. Freonir tensed up. Daywowser said that his heart ached that he had selfishly called the boy into this world and that everything would end up like this. Shiramine told the man not to talk nonsense that he had not even thought of. Daywowser grinned. He said that Shiramine himself was to blame for siding with the beastmen. Then he shoots the boy straight in the head. All the beastmen screamed and Freonir was scared. Daywowser smiled. Despite his grave condition, Shiramine mocked Daywowser's victorious appearance, surprising the latter with his agility on the brink of life and death. Everyone was surprised. Shiramine was healed and said that this was the answer to the question. Some time ago in the power plant of Artralia, the children, recognizing Shiramine as an ally, decided to combine their ability with Link Tech to destroy their common enemy, Daywowser. Some children used the situation to infiltrate restricted areas. By using the power of 1,000 Inhumans in conjunction with Arthralia, he gains the ultimate ability to regenerate, essentially becoming immortal. And she doubts the effect will last less than a day. Beast Girl told Gloria not to say anything. The people in the capsules took the brunt of the recoil, but even so, the damage from the recoil was enormous. Gloria apologized for exposing herself like that. 13 years ago, she made the right choice by leaving Arborian, the village of Dryads. The village is outraged by Gloria's decision to leave her homeland during a time of heightened tension between the nations, criticizing her behavior as unbecoming of freedom-loving Dryads. Dryads live for hundreds of years. Spending them only within the village is such a waste of time. Although she thinks she'll come back for a while since she's already bought a bunch of souvenirs, she was sure they would be happy to see her after she left. Suddenly, breaking news was shown that the entire Arborian country was under siege by human forces. At the same time, the Emperor of Humanity, Gustav, declared war on all other races. The Beastmen said that they knew they had been doing dark things lately, but to go to war was insane. Gloria rushed to her native land, but upon arriving there, she saw only a burnt forest and a huge fire. The girl used her enhanced vision and saw several people. One person was reporting to another that they had destroyed every single Arborian. Another person said that it was a great job. He steps on Gloria's burned comrade and says that among non-humans, the abilities of Dryads are the most diverse and unique. He is sure that they would be another problem in the coming war. Their tendency to avoid conflict made the destruction easier. The beginning of the inhuman genocide was the flame that destroyed Gloria's family, whose face was forever etched in her memory. Lying on the ground, she raised her hand and addressed Shiramine and Freonir, then told them to avenge them all. Shiramine said that even now his body is being destroyed by the backlash of the Arcana. But at the same time, it is being restored. If Daywowser has a powerful spear and shield, then he has an absolute spear and virtually immortal life given to him by his friends. Daywowser said that it was a rather dirty game and a cheap trick. Shiramine said that he did not want to hear that from the man and rushed straight to Daywowser. The man pointed his gun and fired several times at Shiramine. The boy got angry and said that it hurt like hell, and then he stabbed him with a sword. Wyatt grinned and said that the endless life force made everything easier. Perhaps the young man could handle him even on his own. Freonir denies this and says that none of this changes the fact that his movements are being read. Even so, the Arcana restriction doesn't give him a window to attack Daywowser's weak point. It's just another wall that Freonir's analysis will overcome, and now he needs to deal with the Anti-Holy Swords program as well. Shiramine thinks that, seriously, this is cruel. He's just a student, and the main reason he can fight is because of the guidance of the Holy Sword. In fact, he doesn't understand how to use the weapon. But looking at the Beastman's corpse, the young man realizes that he can use it with anything. Then Shiramine runs from side to side. Daywowser thinks that this is different from the optimal choice of the Holy Sword. This means that the young man takes other actions because he will resist any optimal one. Shiramine swings his sword. Daywowser dodges and says that he can only call it carelessness. However, Daywowser is very surprised when he sees another sword in the boy's other hand. Shiramine hits Daywowser's body with his sword. Leona asked, "What is this?" Apparently the dual sword style. Liet said that it was his sword. He picked it up in a dream where he caught Leona. Shiramine said that he knew that the Holy Sword's guidance was compatible with other things besides the Holy Sword. This is how Daywowser's weapon optimization works. It gives him optimal options during battle, no matter how many weapons he uses. Shiramine has a lot of weapons flying around, Shiramine then makes several attacks with different weapons. He says that this anti-holy sword program is not effective against attacks from other weapons. It seems that Daewuser's movements have become dull. The man warps his weapon into Ashvian, but Shiramine says it's too late. The Beastmen tell Shiramine to finish off Daewuser. Suddenly, the young man receives several shots to the young man's body. He looks up and sees Daewuser jumping out of the hole. Liat asks what the hole is, and if it could be the technique Daewuser came out of. The man replies that it is dual weapon mode. Ashvian is his trump card that makes portals. He didn't think he'd have to use it. Freonir thinks that Daewuser then avoided her fourth arcana by using this weapon. Shiramine is healing. Daewuser said that despite everything, he continues to recover. This is a very annoying ability. However, he then summons Mjolnir, and he strikes Shiramine with a bolt of lightning. He says the bullet continuously sends out high-voltage shocks, and the boy probably can't move. But that's not all. He then uses an incendiary bomb and a hollow point, asking the boy how it feels. The young man suffers from pain despite regeneration. The aggressor threatens to turn him into an invalid. Freonir calls Shiramine. She then asks that she hasn't finished the analysis yet. If only Nia's workshop was here. She thinks that at this rate Shiramine will die. Liat said that there is nothing they can do to stop him now. Leona calls them. The girl points to the robot machine. At this time, the young man was tormented by terrible pain. Daewuser said that now they have reached the most interesting part. Painful death. This bullet is made of nanomachine. He asks what it's like to be eaten from the inside. He asks what pain he should now inflict on the young man. He will not know unless the young man tells him. Shiramine remains silent. Daewuser says that he will consider this as an unsatisfied past meal. So he invites the youth to continue their bloody feast. Shiramine realizes that he can't take it anymore, and then asks everyone in Freonir for forgiveness. Daewuser smirks at this time. The Beastmen support the hero by lifting Leona's controlled robot and throwing it into the battle area of Shiramine and Daewuser. The man jumps back and then points the gun at them. Daewuser says they are wasting his time with their tricks. They know they are prolonging the boy's suffering. Suddenly, the man hears someone's voice. Freonir says that hiding in that thing to save Shiramine wasn't the best decision. Liat and Schwanska could have thrown her the other way. Daewuser is surprised. Then Freonir calls out to Ni. The girl's image appears on the robot's screen. Ni says that the connection between the workshop and the robot has unexpectedly come in handy. The analysis has already been completed. This way they can finish off Daewuser's weapon. The man said that it was impossible and called upon Giselle. A huge explosion occurred, after which Daewuser was very surprised. Returning from the afterlife, Shiramine reproached Daewuser for paying too much attention to Freonir. Together, the heroes use the third forbidden technique. Daewuser tries to defend himself. Shiramine says that they've disabled some of his weapon's techniques. His weapon is no longer a threat, so it's time to finish him off. Daewuser smirked and thought that they were just stupid. Taking away his anti-barrier technique certainly makes his normal bullets useless. However, he still has a special bullet that fires the technique. Using Crownolas, Daewuser aims to deal a fatal blow to Freonir. Realizing the shot is ineffective against the regenerating sword wielder, their confidence in the uselessness of his weapon will keep them from trying to dodge his shot. He thinks that the girl's confidence in the lasso will be the end of her. Suddenly, his weapon crumbles in his hands. Freonir figured out the secret of Daewuser's weapon after seeing it in action and confirming her guess. What they were looking for in the analysis was the root of the threat of his weapon, and it turned out to be the shape and attributes of the unknown technology changing in many ways in order to use the power of its arcana and destroy it. Now his weapons and bullets do not know what shape to hold. Daewuser was horrified and said that this was absurd. He called the Demon Queen a mistake of nature, born from two untermenschen monsters. Suddenly, Shiramine appeared in front of him. Daewuser realizes that the messenger's radius is close. He says that he has no other weapon. He can dodge by relying on the anti-holy sword program. Suddenly, the youth uses the sword blade. Having seized the blade, the youth damaged Daewuser's exoskeleton, receiving a message about critical damage and the impossibility of continuing the fight. Daewuser fell to his knees. Everyone was silent for a moment, and then the Beastmen tried to figure out if this was really the end. The Beastmen are eager for revenge, but Freonir calls for calm, offering to spare the prisoner's life in exchange for valuable information and technology. including a way to return Shiramine home. Then Shiramine said that the man said that they were the same. He asked what Daywowser meant by that. Suddenly, Dayhauser laughed and his exoskeleton began to glow. The suit announced that the nanomachine's self-destruct code had been activated. Dayhauser asked if they were really going to use him. He would rather die than let them use even one of his hairs. He lives only for humanity, and he will die only for humanity. Freonir ordered everyone to stop him. Daywowser said that he is all for humanity and true peace. Shiramine and Freonir watched the falling Daywowser. The man smirked and then exploded. At this time, Amelia, and Monica watched the explosion. Recognizing the master, the troops are ordered to retreat and prepare transport. Amelia, who curses the beastmen, is forced to submit to Amelia's decision. Watching the enemy troops retreat, Freonir advises against pursuing weakened soldiers. Suddenly, Shiramine notices Amelia. Lyot said, all the people retreated. The battle is won by the non-humans. The news spreads instantly. The world learns of the return of the Demon Queen, sharing joy and fear. Emperor Gustav receives a report of sudden events, calming the population with minimal unrest. He wonders about the man's next move. The stranger replies that he is going to collect them. The Transcendents, along with the sacred sword, are sacred relics of the messenger. The next day, Freonir gave a speech about how the courage and sacrifice of their comrades had led them to victory. She raises a glass of drink and says that they can drink to the souls of their comrades and their victory. All the beastmen support Freonir's speech. Shiramine sat next to them and said that he could see that they loved to celebrate. Freonir said that it was better than suffocating themselves with unnecessary worries. Then Freonir asked Shiramine how his body was. The young man said that everything was fine and the Arcana's response had disappeared, all thanks to the girl. His time of immortality had also ended. The first forbidden technique is day reversal. This is an absolute technique of the recovery class. More precisely, it is not exactly recovery. It returns living beings to their previous state, maximum 72 hours ago. So it's more of a time manipulation. If you were fine 72 hours ago, even if you lost half your body, you'll feel very fine afterward. Including the protagonist. Everyone who was injured in the battle for Australia has already been fully healed. So they can enjoy the banquet in perfect condition. Shiramine turned his attention to Gloria, who was, as usual, in the crowd of men. Freonir at this point asked Shiramine why he didn't have a drink with them. The young man said that it was quite difficult to keep up with a bunch of drunks and stay sober, because in his world, it was too early for that. Freonir suddenly asked the boy for forgiveness for allowing Daywowser to do this. This was a chance to learn how to return the boy to his world. Shiramine told the girl not to worry. No matter what, he was not going to stop halfway. He was sure that there were other people who knew about the way home. He would be with the girl until the very end. Suddenly, Nee came up to them and said that Freonir and Shiramine were celebrating here. The girl said that they had finished exploring Arthralia. It's so exciting. There's so much sophisticated technology around. She made the right choice, rushing here from Kolad. It will take her about a week to repair Shiramine's broken control system, even though it has a lot of locks, but she can leave that to her. They can't turn the weapon against people. But the power of the weapon is so crazy that the projectile can go around the entire world if desired, although in reality, its range only goes beyond the continent. However, she will repeat once again that this weapon is something unimaginable. More importantly, are they really going to use this thing? Freonir sits down on a stone and says that, frankly speaking, she cannot decide on something like this because this weapon, in its design, is too demonic. However, not using it would only cause more bloodshed. It would be like putting the cart before the horse. She hoped it wouldn't come to that. Just having this weapon is a deterrent to people. She thinks it can be used as a negotiating tool to end the war quickly. Rather, that will be the main purpose of this place. Leona asks if they really won't kill people. Freonir asks why. Their counterattack is a fight to regain what they lost in the last war. Their freedom, their homeland, their dignity, and to return the world to what it was before the last war. She was sure that coexistence with humans would not be so easy. However, Leona did not really think that they were striving for this. Leona suddenly remembered the moment when she and her father and mother were reading a book about heroes, and she smiled. Shiramine thinks that Leona is half human after all. Even if she had to go through real hell once, she still has feelings for humans. Shiramine shouted that it was the first time she had seen her smile. Freonir agreed and added that she had laughed as well. Leona said that she thought she had forgotten how to smile, because if she had smiled in the internment camp, she would have been hurt by humans and non-humans. Shiramine, Ni, and Freonir thought that the situation for the beastmen was dire. Shiramine smiled and told Leona that from now on she could laugh and smile as much as she wanted. Freonir and he, together with all of them, will make a world where everyone can laugh. Liana smiled and agreed. At that moment, Liat looked for Liana and saw a smiling girl, and then he smiled very hard. Freonir asked the boy again about a world where everyone could laugh, and then asked if he really was increasing the difficulty of the goal, and was worried. Shiramine said that he was not worried. He added that it was as long as he was with his partner. The girl laughed. After a while, Shiramine lay among the drunken beastmen. He woke up and Ni noticed and wished him good morning. Shiramine looked at Liata, and said that they were still asleep. Ni said that it was natural after such a wild celebration. She told the boy that he had also become quite wild. Shiramine said that he did not remember anything from that night. Then the boy realizes that there are some marks on him. Then the boy remembered that the drink Gloria gave him was not at all non-alcoholic, although it will still get you drunk. Shiramine said that he was already feeling better. The boy said that it was a strong drink after all. Ni smiled and then said that being so dirty was a bit of a bummer. After a while, Shiramine comes to the bath. The young man was surprised that there was even a bathhouse in Arthralia, although the place was not in such a modern design. He heard that they even had a dining room. This place is not so much a weapon as a fortress. He sits down in the bath and realizes that someone is already there. Suddenly, the young man notices Freonir. He said he just barged in there because it was the only lighted place, but it turned out to be the women's bathing area. The boy apologized and told him to forget he was there. Freonir snuggles up to Shiramine and asks the boy why he is so cold to her. When finally it's just the two of them, the young man notices several bottles and realizes that the girl is already drunk. Freonir grabs the young man by the head and says that it is time to exchange the connection. Shiramine says he doesn't mind if the girl doesn't mind, but he won't take responsibility if she sobers up. Freonir says she understands. To tell the truth, she was just thinking about Shiramine, and it must be fate. Shiramine asked the girl if she had really thought about him. Freonir pressed herself against the boy's back. The boy apologized for not being as muscular. He only asked her not to compare him to muscular monsters like Liat. Freonir said she hadn't said that. Freonir thought about how the young man had saved them all. She was so happy and calm, but she wondered why he had decided to save them. To go so far in an unknown world, only to turn his back on those who had called him. The boy told the girl to always look forward and be happy. He said that a girl he met when he was a child told him this. He turned to Freonir and said that they were like twins, but for a split second he thought the girl was her. Freonir pouted. She asked if she was just a replacement for this girl. The girl started pushing the boy with her horns and he asked her to stop because it hurt. Shiramine said that was her original motive. He looked at Freonir's face and asked her what this time. The girl said she knew that feeling. War is not something you can take lightly. He saw everything with his own eyes and decided to take their hands. Only his back is so reliable. Shiramine replied that it was an honor for him. Then he said that if it was possible, he could ask the girl the same thing. What made her become the leader of the non-humans as the Demon Queen? Freonir laughed and said that the first people to call her the Demon Queen were humans. She liked it very much, so she started calling herself that too. Compared to the boy, her reason was not worthy of praise. She just has a personal grudge. The young man asked about personal grudge. The girl agreed and said that people had stolen her dear sister. The young man was surprised and asked if he could find out more, but suddenly realized that the girl had lost consciousness. Shiramine told her that she had drunk too much. Suddenly Liat enters the bathhouse and says that, to think there is a bathhouse here. It is time to have a great time with the wielder of the sword, Shiramine. Suddenly, he noticed Shiramine, who was on top of Freonir. The man screamed, and Shiramine replied that he had misunderstood. The misunderstanding was quickly resolved, but for some time, Freonir was in a frenzy. The girl pestered him with questions about how much her young man had managed to see, and yet nothing had happened, since she was usually not so fragile. After a while, the beastmen turned to the messenger and said that they had better be prepared for the consequences. Shiramine said that this was very strange, so he should taste the sweet taste of defeat. The beastman made a straight, but Shiramine played a full house. The beastman screamed. Shiramine replied that that was it, because those were the Beastman's last chips. He ordered him to go and get the juice. The Beastman says that he will then wager a certain treasure, the spoils of Arthralia, taken from one of the bags. It is an obscene human book. Shiramine said that he was, of course, a sly one, with his tricks, and he would fall for his provocations. The Beastman said that this would be the beginning of his roleplay. In return, Shiramine will do a good research paper on Freonir. He will also have to do an adult version of it. Shiramine said that he is scared of him, and what he is planning to get from him. Then Shiramine thought about how the magazine belonged to a human, but there were also photos of beast girls, although it didn't look like professional work. I mean, something like this has been around for a long time, so there must be a whole market for something like this. So at least in this way, both sides can get along with each other. Suddenly, a shadow fell upon them. Leona, in the robot, told everyone to get out of the way. A few days after the capture of Artralia, although it is a temporary base, they began to gather supplies here. Artralia would be their next base, after Kalblut, so they were getting it in order. Freonir asked Shiramine if he was okay. Ni said that she let her try it herself, but letting Leona do the maintenance herself was an unwise decision on her part. Shiramine said that he almost died because the girl let Leona feel everything herself. Ni took Leona in as her apprentice. Leona said that it was because she had lived in an internment camp since she was a child. That's why she can barely read or write, so she thought she should find something to do. The boy will pray that the girl won't cause any more strange incidents, but he supports the girl's decision. Ni said that they were both pretty dirty, so they could go to the bathhouse and wash up properly. Then the girl smirked and told him just not to go there at the same time. Freonir and Shiramine shouted that it was a misunderstanding. Leona said she always takes baths with her dad, so she doesn't mind. Ni said it was a shocking revelation. Freonir said it was only with Liet. Shiramine said that he remembered them taking a bath together. Freonir screamed about what Shiramine remembered there. Shiramine replied that he was not talking about the girl's body. Shiramine says he means her older sister, and then asks if she can tell him more about her. Freonir asks again about his older sister. Freonir asked the young man from whom he heard about her. Shiramine said that he heard it from the girl herself in the bathhouse. Freonir said that it was not that she hid it, she did not mind. But she asked why the young man wanted to know about her. Shiramine said that ever since their attack on Arthralia, he wanted to know something. He recalls Amelia's words about what non-humans really are, and why the young man did not believe her. Shiramine intends to continue to see things through his own eyes and choose the path he believes is right. And yet, he cannot bring himself to believe that Amelia lied to him, and they couldn't seem to agree on anything fundamental. Shiramine told Freonir that he came from outside into this world, so it would be strange for him to miss something. For example, he is always close to the girl and still did not know that she had a sister, although, in the end, he did not ask. He grabs the girl by the shoulders and says that everything is exactly like that and there is still so much he doesn't know about this world. That is why he asks the girl to tell him about her older sister. Freonir was embarrassed and wondered why he was suddenly so serious. Freonir wonders where she should start then. She believes that before the previous Great War, there was a particularly powerful noble family among the non-humans. It was the Bernstein family. Their 67th head of the family was her eldest sister, whose name was Lilienthal Bernstein. Shiramine spoke of noble families, and then shouted and asked Freonir if she was really a lady of high class. Freonir was surprised and said that no matter how the young man looked at her, she was of high class. Freonir then went on to say that her sister Lilienthal had two equal qualities. She was childlike, but had the strength to carry out her duties. She taught Freonir a lot. They played together, made fun of others. She even wrote a novel with herself as the main character, and it was flawless. She told her that if the girl was so proud of her delusion, then let her write it. The boy still couldn't figure out who she was. Ni said that, to tell the truth, she wasn't the kind of person to understand. Shiramine said that the older sister was very important to Freonir, and that was enough. Freonir made a very sad smile. The girl said that, however, the memories of her only made her lonely. Shiramine asked if it was possible that her older sister had died. Freonir said that Ni could tell more about this than she could. Ni said that she believed Freonir was right. Shiramine asked in what sense. Ni asks the boy if he knows that before the Great War, humans and non-humans coexisted peacefully. Lilienthal inherited her position from her parents, who died early. This was around the time that the conflict between non-humans and humans began. Because of Lili's position, she had no choice but to lead the non-humans' war effort. Freonir said she felt like she didn't want to drag her little sister, that is, her, into such a bad situation. It was around the time she broke ties with her. Ni said that during this time, her family, who had served the Freonir family for generations, began to act as Lili's right hand. That's why she has a better understanding of what happened around this time, when disagreements and tensions reached their limit between humans and non-humans, and the path to peace seemed to cease to exist. Lily and they came to the conclusion that they needed to look for the mastermind behind this war. It happened in the middle of their investigation. The moment when Lily died, the train she was on was blown up. The Inhumans became warped with a desire to avenge Lily. Soon after, the humans attacked the Arbarian village and declared war on all Inhumans. And so the last Great War began. To be honest, Ni thinks that Lily didn't want Freonir to get involved in the war. Freonir asked what Ni thought she should have done then, forgetting her sister's regrets, accepting the humans' invasion and dying without resisting. Ni apologized and said the girl was right. Although, to be honest, she still thinks that if Lily had lived, the Great War would not have happened, or at least the contempt between non-humans and humans would not have been so strong. Shiramine replied that Ni said that Lily, she and the others were looking for the reason for the spread of contempt between humans and non-humans. He asks if they were able to find out anything. He would have found it hard to believe, but it wasn't coming from the non-humans. Freonir told the boy not to talk nonsense, and how he even came up with it. Ni said that it all started 33 years ago, before she was born. Or in other words, 20 years before the start of the last Great War. Human media and other organizations began to promote anti-inhuman sentiments. Suddenly, Liat burst into the conversation and said that he remembered those times well. He was still young then. He fell in love and made a vow about their future to his now deceased wife. At that time, the relationship between non-humans and humans was not strange. But as soon as they grew up, everything changed. Even now, he can't forget the strange shift in the atmosphere surrounding their relationship. His wife believed in Liata and stayed by his side. Ni said that it was true. The unusual, bizarre news and information dissemination, entangled in fabricated malice, all traced back to one person. The young man was surprised by the information. Ni agreed and said that the head of the intelligence bureau of the human army, Dewauser, in his hands is the entire information network of humanity. Shiramine said that this guy wasn't an emperor. Then he thought about 33 years and asked how old he was then. Logically, he should be about 60 or 70 years old now. He asked if he just looked young. Freonir said that everyone looked different after years. Shiramine asked if it was okay to accept that explanation. Ni said that they could not understand why this man was showing aggression towards non-humans, nor the reasons why he went so far as to start the Great War. However, without a doubt, it was he who destroyed their several hundred years of peace. Shiramine remembered Amelia's words, who believed that humans had come to this point because non-humans were to blame. But had Dewauser really deceived her? He remembered the girl's words, saying that she had been taught the truth well. He thought that her words were hiding something more behind them. The reason why Dewauser wants to destroy humans is related to this. Of course, it is possible that she has simply been completely brainwashed. Freonir said that as for her sister, there was only regret. This time, they were able to defeat the source of what had plunged this world into chaos. They also got Arthralia. They might even be able to end their rebellion faster. Liat asked if they were going to wipe out the humans, since it would be a long fight. Nai approached Freonir and said that it was a pretty crazy theory, so she kept it a secret from the girl. But to destroy the mastermind Dewauser. Many suggested this option. In the end, they had 5 plans to kill Dewauser, 3 of which were successful. Suddenly, someone runs up to Freonir and asks the girl to look at the screen, because she needs to see this. Everyone is surprised because they see a living Dewauser on the screen. Liat said that it is impossible because he definitely exploded that day. Freonir said, for their counterattack to be successful, they must learn his identity and purpose. At this time, in the human capital, Dewauser was giving interviews to journalists. Monica helped to believe that Dewauser was alive. A soldier ran up to Monica and said that even if they knew he was the head of the intelligence bureau, he served His Majesty the Emperor directly. Monica turned to George and said that he had seen it himself. The man exploded right before their eyes. When they surrounded him, he was already there to greet them. His explosion was clearly not some kind of trick or cloning. George then asked what it was. Still, breaking into the room of a man who is surrounded by state secrets to find out about him is not the best idea. If they were caught, they would face the death penalty. Monica said it wasn't pointless. They hadn't discovered his true identity, but they had found records pointing to him as the main instigator of their war with the Inhumans. Then Monica asked that doesn't it make a man feel uneasy that something unknown stands at the center of humanity? George agrees and says that he feels the same way. Suddenly, they are interrupted by Amelia, who greets them. She said she went out for a walk and to get some sweets, and then she met them. So, it's a lucky coincidence. Monica wonders if the girl heard them. Monica thought that since she and Amelia met in Arthralia, they'd kind of gotten along. But she wasn't surprised that Dayhauser was here and greeted them, unlike Amelia. She is completely on his side, so he can't take his eyes off her. At this point, Amelia comes up to Monica from behind and asks her to look at her. She said that Monica seemed thoughtful. If she didn't mind, why didn't she talk to her about it? Then she started tickling her. Monica thought about how Amelia had protected them several times. Maybe she could tell them Dayhauser's true identity and if she could be their ally. Then Dayhauser and Amelia approached them. Monica is frightened by their sudden appearance. At that moment, Amelia told Amelia that she ran away from them again. Dayhauser turned to Monica. The girl said that she had urgent business, so she asked her to excuse her and then ran away. Dayhauser asks Amelia how the case is going. Amelia asks if the man is referring to the people who broke into their room. She apologizes and says that she hasn't found out who it could be yet. She had no progress when she was investigating, but she teamed up with the Damned to start another investigation. The Damned are a special police force within the Intelligence Bureau that are entirely subordinate to Dayhauser. They are responsible for purging any groups or individuals that are undesirable or supporters of the Inhumans. However, with each passing day, the actions became more problematic, and they were now a mere skeleton of the organization they were. Dayhauser told Amelia that she had done a great, foolish thing. His secret is known only to a few who are directly connected to him. It's not that there aren't those in power who disagree with him. For example, the Damned, whose ranks he personally thinned. If they find out about his secret, the girl imagines what they can demand from him, taking advantage of his weakness. That's why he trusted Amelia with the investigation. He says he shouldn't have done it. Amelia starts apologizing and says she didn't mean to. Dayhauser said that worrying about the matter would not help. The girl must try not to make such mistakes again. Amelia thought of the Damned. The next day, Monica remembered that yesterday, those three had made her break out in a cold sweat. She would like to apologize to Amelia now, but it would be dangerous to trust anyone from the Intelligence Bureau. The girl's looking for George because he ran to help her with her work. Suddenly, she sees George, who is completely smashed. The girl runs up to him and asks the boy what happened to him. Suddenly, a crowd of men appears right behind the girl and tells Corporal Monica that they are under arrest. The girl notices the emblem of the Damned. George tells the girl to be careful, because they are looking for those who broke into Dayhauser's room. Monica understands that if they are not looking, it means they have not been exposed yet. The girl asks the men if they have any evidence. The man smirks and says that they don't have any. If they investigate according to the rules, they won't find anyone. They decided to start checking those who had direct contact with Dayhauser. That is, the survivors from Arthralia. They have already found 5 who can confirm this. Monica thought it was mean. She had heard that the remnants of the Damned were famous for their vileness, but they were just street thugs. The man grabs the girl's hand and tells her to come with them, because it's time to have some fun. The girl hits him on the hand and tells the man to take his hands off her and stay away. Suddenly, the man kicked the girl. He said that if she wanted to plunge into the world of pain, she should obediently follow them. He believed that it also depended on her answers. Suddenly, Amelia appeared and said that it was terrible, and then asked the men what they were doing. Monica was surprised by Amelia and asked her what she was doing there. Amelia said that she came for sweets. The men surrounded the girl and asked if they could ask her not to interfere with their work. This is all part of the investigation. If the suspect refuses to cooperate, force must be used. Amelia asked about the suspects and said that she heard that the men did terrible things to the survivors of the battle on Arthralia. The men said that maybe the girl should shut her mouth and not blab about their affairs. If she defended Monica, she would have to go with them. Amelia told Monica to run. She said that she knew that Monica had done nothing wrong, so the girl should run away quickly. Monica thought that her heart was tingling. However, she realizes that she can't do anything with them. She takes George's hands and tells Amelia that she is counting on her. The men rushed after Monica, but Amelia said that she would not allow it, and then she pinned all the men to the wall. They did not understand what kind of monstrous force it was. Suddenly, someone attacks Amelia right in the back. The man standing behind her said that he heard how strong she was, which was proven by that blow, but it seems like she should have at least put up a barrier. Amelia fainted. The men asked what they should do now. If anyone found out about this, they would die. They knew she was close to Dayhauser. They'd better just stay out of it. Besides, this girl is better for them, right? Monica held George and tried to take him away from here. The 5th Division of the dam was located in an underground interrogation complex. Deep in the outskirts, its existence had long been forgotten. The men were sitting in their section drinking alcoholic beverages. Their leader turned to Amelia and asked the girl how she was feeling. The girl was tied up. The man told the girl that it was useless to make noise. These chains were made of a special alloy that would restrain her monstrous strength. But first of all, she had no strength because of the forbidden drugs that the girl was given to drink. He said it was Amelia's fault for interfering with the official investigation. Although that was better than a soldier breaking into Dayhauser's room. For them, the girl was a more convenient suspect, since she was directly related to him. He then asks the girl if she really noticed that she had a grudge against Dayhauser. They had wiped out everyone who had stood in his way. However, when he no longer needed them, he simply threw them all out. They had gone too far. They had gone too far. They thought they had gone too far. So Amelia, who was always with him, she must know about his weaknesses and a lot of other things. He asks the girl to help them crush this Four Eyes guy. He will throw the girl out as soon as he no longer needs her. Amelia thought that Dayhauser might throw her out like those children. She said that she couldn't betray the master and Amelia. The man replied that it was quite an impressive loyalty. They would wait until she begged them to let her speak. Amelia said she couldn't, so she started begging for someone to help her. Suddenly there was a sound, as if someone was coming down, but the door was made of steel, and the man closed it. The man held out his weapon and asked the intruder what else he would not allow anyone to come in. Amelia said that the curse was really just a bunch of pathetic thugs. Her judgment of them was wrong. Amelia asked Emily what he was doing here. Emily pointed at Monica and said that she had brought her here. At that moment, George said that he was here too. Monica thought about Amelia being on Dayhauser's side, but she couldn't let her guard down. However, she had saved him many times before. She couldn't just leave her to her fate. George and Monica began to support Amelia. Amelia said that she had heard about the group's actions, but having seen it for herself as someone who had made a mistake, she would be the one to correct it. Amelia asked the men how they dared to disgrace Amelia like that. She hoped they had already said their prayers. At that moment, the man grabbed Amelia and ordered Amelia not to move. Amelia called the man a bastard. He asked if she hadn't heard him, and now he was ordering her to drop her weapon and raise her hands. Amelia realizes that the situation is worse than ever. The men started laughing and saying that isn't it wonderful, and how dare the girl intimidate them. Then suddenly, Amelia was hit on the head with a glass bottle. The girl fell to the floor from the impact. The men shouted that they had always been Amelia's fan, but the girl was very rude to her fans. Amelia screamed at Amelia to forget about her. The men grabbed the girl by the hair and said that her friend was talking to her. If it did turn out that they had laid hands on Dayhauser's dear servants, they would not go unpunished. And now there was no turning back. Once they learn his weakness, they will keep the girls as their personal pets. Suddenly, the muzzle of a gun approached the man, and the voice of Dayhauser was heard. The man thanked the bandit for expressing his thoughts perfectly. A direct shot to the head rang out. Dayhauser stood with a gun and said that his secrets and these girls belonged to him. Amelia was glad to see the master. The man said that he had come too, but it wouldn't work against them, so he shouldn't move. Dayhauser agreed and said that he would not move. Suddenly, the men noticed magic bullets near them. The man thought the bullets from his gun were just hanging in the air. Dayhauser said it was because he had already solved that problem. Then the bullets started shooting straight at the men. Dayhauser said he shouldn't have let the trash rot for so long. From that moment on, the damned no longer exist. Amelia thanked everyone who had arrived and said that she had been very worried. Dayhauser told the girls that they might be special, but there were many things that made them no different from ordinary people. He asked the girls to be more careful in the future. Amelia smiled awkwardly and apologized. Amelia said, almost in a whisper, that she had let the men see something like that right in front of the master. Amelia remembered the man's words about Dayhauser throwing her out as soon as he no longer needed her. Dayhauser interrupted the girl's thoughts and asked her if there was anything wrong. The girl said there was nothing wrong. She promised to be more careful. Then Dayhauser turned to Corporal Monica and Trooper Second Class George. He asked them to accept his gratitude. Thanks to the two of them, Amelia was saved. Then he smiled and said that he was an ally of the people, so they could rest easy. Monica and George tensed up. George asked if he was just guessing, and Monica said she hoped he didn't know anything. She thought about Dayhauser's words and asked if that was why he started 2 wars with the Inhumans. She looked at his back and asked what his identity and purpose was. After a while, the girl medic said that the main thing in men is muscles. If they don't have oppressive chests, then they are not interesting to her. The other beast girls supported her. Freonir came into the room after bathing and asked what this meeting was. Gloria said that they were having a hen party. Freonir asked what that meant. Gloria explained that they were now discussing what kind of guys they found attractive. Now she wondered if she liked younger guys. Freonir was then asked who she thought was cool. Freonir asked again, then smiled and said that she thought Shiramine was cool. Gloria and Leona were surprised, and then Gloria asked if she could ask the girl to explain in more detail. Freonir said that if we talk about toughness, then in battle, who is tougher than Shiramine? Especially that day when she woke up again. How cool he looked when he saved her. She still sees it in her dreams. After all, their chemistry is incredible. It must have been destined for them to meet. Then Freonir said that tomorrow was Shiramine's birthday, so she prepared a gift for him. It should arrive tomorrow with the delivery. The last time she gave a gift was to her older sister, so she hopes Shiramine likes it. The girl then said that Ni had called her for something, so she apologized for disturbing them. The girls wondered if it was possible that Shiramine really liked Freonir. Gloria said that when it comes to love, she is just a little girl. She hasn't made any progress yet. She wonders if that will change if she has a rival. The next day, a fierce battle took place on the training ground. Liet was training with Shiramine. However, Shiramine overpowered Liet and pinned him to the ground. Leona at that moment announced that Shiramine had won, and Papa was very close. Liet said that Shiramine was very good. The youth said that fighting against the Holy Sword and being on his level only considering his brute strength is quite crazy. Then the young man heard the noise of weapons and realized that everyone was training hard. Liat said it was because of the broadcast yesterday, where dues are performed. Their enemy is powerful and unknown. It seems that the conquest of Atralia has strengthened their pride a little. It is true that the humans currently have the overwhelming number of soldiers. Ideally, they would need to increase their numbers before their next move. Shiramine replied that despite all their shortcomings, they just needed to find their weak point. Then they are going to go back to training. Liat said that he will not fight the boy so softly to get even. Shiramine asked him not to hold a grudge. Freonir then interrupted them and told Shiramine that he seemed to be training hard. Shiramine was interrupted by Freonir. He said that the girl seemed to be in a good mood. Freonir asked the boy if they wanted to know why. Then Freonir said that she could not hold back any longer. Then the girl said that a delivery would arrive today. Suddenly, Freonir was called and told that the supply convoy had been attacked. The girl screamed loudly and asked what it meant. At this point, the convoy was completely destroyed. The man sitting on the throne asked if they had collected all the valuable cargo. The others replied that they would never have thought that they would target the supplies of the Dark Queen's army of non-humans. The young man sitting on the side said that it was all because they were a mixture of humans and non-humans who were called four-eared. In order to belong neither to humans nor to non-humans, they will build their own empire. They cannot simply hide. Then the girl who was right behind the boy's throne called him by name and told Tsukumo that this could one day lead to their downfall. The boy asked Samir not to worry. The Inhuman army is busy fighting humans, and they are such a small group that they don't have time for them. Suddenly, the convoy was blown up. Freonir blew them up and started screaming that it was them. She said it was impolite to take other people's things and she would make them return her supplies. The four-eared ones realized that they were serious because they even had a holy sword with them. Sumire saw the messenger of the holy sword. At this time, Shiramine turned to Liet and asked about the bandits. Liet said that they were all just children and were four-eared. The boy turned to Freonir and said that they were just children. At that moment, Freonir ordered everyone to deal with them. Shiramine realized that the girl had entered berserker mode. Gloria grabbed Freonir and said that since she had lost control of herself, she would take command. It looks like a group of armed four-eared children attacked their supplies. The blood of humans and non-humans flows in their veins at the same time. When the Great War broke out, both sides abandoned them. Shiramine asked if they had truly united in order to survive. Gloria said that she had heard that before they had gotten by with simply stealing provisions, but since they had a new leader, they had become more daring. Shiramine turned his attention to the leader of the four-eared ones and said that, aren't they, in a way, a mismatch of species? Shiramine asked Liet if the four-eared could be of mixed species. Liat said he had never heard of such a thing. Their form is almost chimera-like. Suddenly, Tsukumo and Sumire attacked Liat and Shiramine. Shiramine realized that they were strong, and Liat said that he could not use his weapon against children. Sumire attacked Shiramine and asked that, aren't they grotesque? Being mixed with all species, it's an abnormal form. She asks the boy if he really doesn't find her ugly. Shiramine is surprised and says that it's not like that and he thinks the girl is attractive. She looks like a character from a game. Sumire is surprised. She jumped aside, and Tsukumo took an attack from Leota. Tsukumo said that he was going to create a free empire where no one would be oppressed. He could not retreat. He turns to his comrades and says that they are using the stolen weapons. Tsukumo takes the weapon in his hands. Gloria screams that this is an anti-Krieger technology developed, so they won't be able to withstand the shots fired at her. Liat says that's bad, and then orders the troops to activate the barrier. Tsukumo said that the hour of non-humans had arrived, and then fired, but the shot came from the other side of the gun. The shot hit the mountain that was right behind Tsukumo. Liat yelled at him to at least read the instructions. Suddenly, Gloria yelled that the rock was crumbling. Sumire rushed straight to Tsukumo. The young man told the girl to stop, because then she would die too. At this moment, Shiramine activated the power of the sacred sword and rushed straight towards the cliff. He used the tenacious blade of worry technique. The young man cut the rock with his strength. Sumire opened her eyes and saw the young man, who said that he himself was one of those who did not read the instructions. Sumire asked the boy why he helped them. Shiramine said that if they had to do this, because they were rejected by both non-humans and humans, then they weren't really bad. He asks them if they want to come with him. A lot has happened in the past, but as they see, they also have a lot of four-eareds in the troop now. He is confident that they can now start a new life. At that moment, Tsukumo stabbed the boy in the sword and said that he could not deceive them. He ordered all troops to retreat immediately. Liat was about to stop them, but Gloria said it was too dangerous to pursue them now. They had returned their supplies so they could leave. Freonir didn't care, because she found Shiramine's gift safe and sound. The four-eared ones were leaving, but Sumire turned to look at Shiramine. After some time, the non-humans congratulated Shiramine on his birthday. The young man was very surprised and asked if it was really today, because he had even forgotten about it. Shiramine said that it had been 2 months since he came to this world. It was pure coincidence that in this world, 1 month was that long. At that moment, Freonir handed Shiramine a gift and told him to open it. The young man agreed. After a while, he put on a wonderful jacket. Freonir said that because the boy's clothes were torn to shreds because of Dewauser, and since her first arcana didn't restore the clothes, she decided to order this from him. And he said that she was also a little involved in it. Freonir told the young man how he liked his new clothes. She hoped that she had guessed his preferences. Shiramine agreed and said that this was just what he needed. He thanked Freonir and stroked her head. The girl said that the boy was treating him like a child again. Suddenly she realized something and, laughing, said that perhaps she was mistaken. Then the party was announced. Shiramine asked if it was really time for another party, because they really loved them. The next morning, The boy woke up in his bed, but suddenly found Freonir there. The boy said that the girl had got drunk again and climbed into his bed. He called it a dangerous habit. Ni once said that Freonir really wants to be pampered by someone. It seems that she chooses whose bed to choose. This proves that she trusts him. Shiramine tried to wake the girl and said that it was already morning, so it was time to get up. Freonir said that the young man was so persistent. The young man asked what kind of dream she had. Suddenly the boy realized that there was something behind him. He turned around and saw Sumire there. The girl told the boy that he had finally woken up. Shiramine asked why she was there. Freonir asked what the noise was, since she had had such a good dream. Sumire asked why the girl was asking, since he himself had to her, and wasn't it obvious? Suddenly the girl kissed Shiramine and told him to get closer to each other. At this time, at the secret base of the Four-Eared, the children turned to the leader and said that when they woke up, they found this letter. Tsukumo thought that this simply could not be. He read the letter that Sumire and everyone else had gone to the messenger of the Holy Sword, so he should take care of himself. At this time, Sumire was walking with Shiramine and said that there were so many things here that she had never seen before. It was also her first time seeing so many adult Four-Ears. She then asked the host what was there. Shiramine said that he could just be called by his name. At this time, Ni and Gloria looked at Shiramine and Sumire. Ni said that this was the same Four-Eared one she had heard about. Gloria asked Freonir if the girl didn't think she was too attached to him. Freonir yelled at Shiramine and asked if he was really sucking up to her, if he was really already in love with her just because of a kiss. Shiramine said he wasn't sucking up. She asked the girl if she really was with the thieves from yesterday. She asked about the girl's purpose. Sumire said that everything she said was true. She came here because of his invitation. The group she was in was trying to create an empire where there would be no discrimination against children with 4 ears. But she always had a vague sense that it was impossible. She worried about what they would do next. That's why when Shiramine asked her if she wanted to go with him, she was very happy. She had heard a lot about the young man. People called him into this world, and yet, because of his own beliefs, he went over to the side of the non-humans. So the young man is a hero of justice. Besides, even though they were hostile to him, he still saved them. And her body, instead of saying she was grotesque, he said she was attractive. She thought that if she went with the boy, they would find their place. That's why she came here with the other children who agreed. This is her purpose for coming. Then the girl presses herself against the young man and says that she has come to be his. The girl presses herself against the young man even more tightly. She asked if the boy really wouldn't give her up. Then Liat interrupted them and said that the little ones the girl had mentioned were indeed near Arthralia. They had taken them all. The girl replied that they had become very attached to Liat. Liat replied that it was better not to underestimate the real dad. However, he is curious as to how the girl managed to break through their guards. As adults since the beginning of the Great War, they bear some responsibility for the discrimination against these children, and for all these 4-eared ones joining together in a gang of thieves. Of course, he himself did nothing of the sort, but that doesn't matter. Don't they all think that they have a responsibility to protect, support, and teach these children to live a decent life until they can enter the real world themselves? Ni said she felt no remorse. Gloria asked Freonir what she thought. Freonir shouted that she absolutely disagreed. She said no way, since they stole Shiramine's gift. Sumire was the one who stole their supplies. She has no doubt that she has ulterior motives. And on top of that, she kissed Shiramine. She would never forgive the girl for that. Sumire said that it was the girl's personal offense. Gloria said to Freonir why she didn't just kiss him too. Freonir screamed and said that you can't kiss someone until she marries him. Gloria said that she was too innocent. Ni looked and said that a kiss meant something similar. Sumire said that she heard that a kiss on the cheek meant affection. Ni looked at Gloria and said that it meant a kiss on the cheek. Freonir asked why the girls were looking at her like that. A kiss is a kiss. Sumire said that she felt hurt by the accusations of her ulterior motives. If she doubted, she could check her body in something else. Freonir ordered Shiramine to stop looking at the girl. Shiramine asked what they needed to look at her body. Freonir ordered the boy to stop looking at her. Sumire apologizes and says that since it has only been about a year since she was born, she doesn't know how to act properly. Freonir asks if the girl really means to say that she is only a year old. Despite her appearance, she's a girl almost an adult. Sumire said that she is telling the truth. She asked if they have really never seen a mixed beast chimera like her, which is a mixture of several species. She was born by human hands in an incubation capsule. She's an artificially born four-eared, and she didn't introduce herself. The girl's name is Sumire, although her original name was only the number 5 divine being Violet. But it wasn't very cute, so she took the name Sumire with a similar meaning. Shiramine asked about the number 5 perfect being. Sumire said that the person who created many works gave each of them a name in alphabetical order. For example, the number 10 perfect being, Jack, and so on. She heard that Shiramine had already met some of them. The girl said the name of Amelia and Amelia. The young man thought that Amelia and Amelia were the same as this girl. He remembered hearing them say something about being created, but it wasn't special training or body modification. They really are an artificial life form. Sumire said that although apparently she and Tsukumo were the best works, Tsukumo is the boy who was with her yesterday. The man in glasses found out about them and asked what it was, talking about the mixture of blood of corrupted non-humans in this project, scolding their creator. Then they were going to get rid of them with Tsukumo, but they were able to escape. Or rather, they were allowed to escape. In any case, they managed to escape. They wandered aimlessly until they met a group of four-eared ones. At first, these children were scared by their bodies, but not Shiramine. He was the only one who was not afraid of her. Shiramine told the girl not to use the moment to seduce Shiramine with those eyes. The boy asked who created the two of them, including Amelia and Amelia. Sumire said that she had not heard his name, only that he was addressed as doctor or professor. The girl then said that one day a man with glasses addressed him as 8. Liet, Gloria, and Ni were very surprised. They asked again about the 8th, and Freonir asked about the 8th seed. Shiramine was surprised and asked if they really knew it. Freonir said that another core member of the human army is of the same caliber as Dewazir and the Emperor. The 8th seed is the director of the Human Army Engineering Bureau, a person who rarely appears in public. However, his identity is shrouded in mystery. About 40 years ago, he and Dewazir came along. Together they revolutionized technology, but it was thanks to him that the world moved forward more than 100 years. Not just in terms of weapons, like Artralia and Krieger. All forms of infrastructure were completely influenced by the 8th. They too are largely awaiting the fruits of his technology. Shiramine thinks of the screen and thinks that it is similar to a television. Shiramine thinks that since arriving in this world, he thought it was strangely like a fantasy, but it only became like that recently. So everyone should thank 8th for that. Then Dewazir's weapon and his suit too. He has a feeling that this 8th is not just some genius. Liet says that if it's like the girl claims it's related to the 8th, they can't just leave her. Ni agrees. Gloria said that was great and they just needed to get ready for the welcoming party. Sumire asked if that was really the case, and then she thanked them. Freonir said they could do whatever they wanted and then ran away crying. Gloria said she figured there was nothing she could do about it, that was just Freonir. Ni told Shiramine to take care of the girl. She can only rely on you in this. The young man did not understand anything, but agreed. After some time, Freonir was sitting by the water. Shiramine disturbed her peace and said that the girl was closer than he thought. The young man sat down next to the girl and asked her what had come over her. Freonir said that she understood everything, but she was just emotional right now. However, this is one of the forgotten feelings of her heart. The girl turns to the boy and says that they should kiss too. Shiramine asked why. He asked if the girl hadn't said that the kiss was only for married men. Freonir said that no one would see them anyway, and kisses on the cheek didn't count. Shiramine said that the girl had completely lost her head over that kiss. She also noticed that she was upset. She said that she thought Shiramine was her ideal partner, and yet, at that moment, she felt like the Sumire had stolen him from her. Shiramine looked at the girl and said that she was a complete fool. Freonir was surprised and said that she had been honest with the young man. Shiramine said that's why he asked. They are partners, and he said that it was because even if he was kissed, that fact wouldn't change or he was wrong. Freonir was surprised. Then Shiramine leaned over and called the girl. Freonir asked what the boy was doing. Shiramine became embarrassed. He said that he was trying to get the girl to kiss him on the cheek. Freonir was surprised and asked what the boy had just said. She asked why Shiramine suddenly said that. Shiramine said that the girl asked for it. It seems like he doesn't want her to just feel awkward, so if it calms him down. The young man asked what he should do. Freonir said that she would do it because she had to do it. Freonir approached the boy and told him not to tell anyone about this. Shiramine said that he knew and would not tell anyone, and then said that now he himself was nervous. Freonir approached the boy, but could not kiss him. Shiramine turned to the girl and asked how long this would last. The girl replied that she was just about to do so. Shiramine replied that 5 minutes had passed. If the girl did not hurry, someone would come and see. Suddenly, he saw an air attack. Liat and Gloria approached the boy and Freonir. Liat was surprised and said that the enemy was attacking. The attacker turned out to be Tsukumo. He said that one day he would build an empire where there would be only 4-eared people, and he would become the new supreme leader. He challenges the messenger to a duel. If he wins, he will return Sumire and the children he forced to leave. Sumire said that she even told him that she would leave of her own free will. Freonir said that she was using the situation to her advantage again. Sumire said that everything started so well. Freonir turned to Sumire and asked the girl what she was going to do. Thanks to her, the situation is in their hands. Sumire yelled at Tsukumo to stop acting like a fool and stop this duel, since they came here of their own free will. Tsukumo asked why the girl didn't talk to him first. He turned to Sumire and said that they would all create an empire of 4-eared people together. Sumire said that it was because the boy didn't listen to her at all. She hadn't promised anything about the empire of the 4-eared. The boy was simply delighted with the idea, and because of this, he constantly put them all in danger. Since she knew it was pointless to say that she was against it, she reluctantly helped them. She was not the only one who thought so, because other children went with her. She was always by Tsukumo's side, yet he didn't understand her feelings. He should just give up trying to create an empire, and he is inferior to the girl. Tsukumo started crying and said that the girl shouldn't have gone that far. His height had nothing to do with it. Everyone was surprised that he was crying. Samir said that she had a lot of pent-up anger, so maybe she overdid it. Freonir called Tsukumo a weakling. Gloria said that the boy could be so cute. Shiramine said that it meant the matter was decided, but Samir replied that it was not decided. At that moment, the youth was supported by an ally and called him a man who would definitely grow up. Sumir said that if Tsukumo had made up his mind to do something, there was no talking him out of it. No matter what, she thought he would try to get them back. Even Tsukumo should have realized from yesterday's battle that creating his own empire was reckless. Although he is stupid, so he would not understand it. Freonir was surprised and asked Sumire if she really trusted him in all the wrong ways. Shiramine interrupted them and said, why don't they come with them? Looking at Samir and the others, Tsukumo can understand it. They won't hurt anyone. They will protect them from now on. Tsukumo told the allies not to listen to them. None of them trust the words of adults after they abandoned them. Liat said these were damned rebellious faces. And yet they could not hurt him, for he was a victim of the Great War. Shiramine said that if that was the case, then nothing could be done. Then if Tsukumo wanted, then they could fight. If he won, then they would all go with them. If Tsukumo won, then they would all go with them. If Tsukumo won, then he would become his vassal. Freonir and Samir asked Shiramine what he was planning. Shiramine replied that in his past world, he had a friend who looked like him. He was ridiculous, but he had his own beliefs about some things. No matter how much they tried to prove themselves right, it would never come to that. So the fastest way to get through to him was a good old fist fight. Surame said that there was no need to do that. Tsukumo was stupid, so if they just chased him away, everything would be fine. Shiramine turned to Surimi and said that she was also worried about Tsukumo. It was clear from her voice. Surame said that they are in some way brother and sister. He is stupid, but not bad at all. The girl says that if possible, she would like to be with him. Shiramine is so kind, so she is glad that she met him. Freonir smirks and says that the girl saw his good qualities, so she will praise him for it. Suddenly, Shiramine looks at Shiramine and realizes that he does not have the holy sword. The boy then takes a few steps forward. Tsukumo says that to his credit, the boy did not run away and accepted his challenge. If he wins, he will make the bearer of the holy sword his lackey, which doesn't sound too bad, and also Samir and those he deceived will return to them. However, the bearer of the holy sword, Shiramine, has forgotten his holy sword. He can hurry after him. Shiramine asks about the holy sword. The young man says that he doesn't need him, because against him he will only need his fists. And now Tsukumo can approach. Tsukumo asks if he really thinks he doesn't need the holy sword against him. Tsukumo then charges straight towards Shiramine. Tsukumo yells that he shouldn't underestimate him. He attacks, but Shiramine dodges and Tsukumo misses. Gloria said that the boy was very fast and had such destructive power. Surime said that as perfect beings, their physical abilities were increased eightfold. Without the holy sword, Shiramine won't be able to resist him for long. Tsukumo said that even if he doesn't have the sword, he won't be soft on him. This bracelet seems to create a barrier. But for obvious reasons, it is useless in a fistfight. He tells the boy to prepare to feel some broken bones. The boy continues to attack Shiramine, but he deftly dodges. Shiramine thought that Shiramine was capable of such a thing without the holy sword. Freonir said that his training with Liet seemed to be working well, although she was a little nervous at first. Liet said that attacks that relied only on strength did not affect Shiramine. During the battle on Artralia, he noticed that he couldn't rely on just the holy sword. So he joined their training. He began to train his body, learning combat techniques as well as combat tactics. He went so far as to become more skilled in handling the holy sword and its abilities. First of all, when Shiramine was on the verge of death, even though he relied on the holy sword, he was the one who managed to pull himself out of it. In that short time, he gained experience and mastered skills that would put even experienced fighters to shame. Of course, Shiramine's skill also contributed to this. Hammering her fighting techniques into him was of great benefit. If he had the holy sword, his strength would only increase. Freonir said he could become even stronger. Tsukumo was shouting that he wouldn't soften. Ni says that it's worth adding that the jacket Freonir gave him has some of her developments built into it, increasing his physical strength. That's why the boy Tsukumo has no chance. The cloak was activated all this time. Shiramine grabs Tsukumo by the shoulder and throws him to the ground. Shiramine smirked and asked Tsukumo how he liked the fight. The boy's allies watched intently as their leader lost. They said that he was so strong that the other children were no match for him. Tsukumo's rabbit-type ally said that now was the time for a leader. Suddenly it started raining. Leona said that they needed to bring the laundry into the house. Sumire realized that things were bad. At that moment, Tsukumo turned to Shiramine. He told them that he had to give the boy credit for making him be serious. Shiramine asked the boy what he was saying in such a situation. Sumire shouted at the boy to get away from Tsukumo immediately. Then the boy noticed that Tsukumo's hair had turned black. He began to use the holy relic technique. Shiramine was very surprised. Sumire said that shadows appeared from the ground. Tsukumo embodied the shadows and attacked with them. Freonir said that this was impossible and that such technology simply did not exist. Samora said that it was not a technique, but a sacred relic. They were implanted into her and Tsukumo's bodies, and they became transcendental beings that distorted reality and changed the world. Tsukumo's relic can create clones from shadows. And now that the sun is set, it's time for Tsukumo. The young man suggested to Shiramone to continue. Shiramine grinned and said that he was becoming more and more interesting. Freonir said that the shadows were writhing and she had never heard of such a technique, so she doesn't understand what is going on here. Sumire said that it was the power of Tsukumo and the sacred relic. The reason why the 8th seed was interested in ideal works like Tsukumo and her was because of the mixture of their bodies. However, because they were the first artificially born suitable for sacred relics. Shiramine asked about the sacred relics and asked if they were different from the effects of normal techniques. Freonir said she didn't know. Ni said the technology is defined as the remaking of reality. The world revolves according to the familiar. All phenomena have meaning. Nothing will happen without cause and effect, a cause or a proper process. However, ignoring these things and rewriting reality actualizes the desired energy, phenomena, or simply the result. This is what technique is. However, this does not mean that the techniques are omnipotent. Changing reality is quite difficult. The aspects of reality that they can change are limited. To broadly classify how current techniques can alter reality, we distinguish between creation, resolution, and restoration. This is not to be taken lightly, but they can only change aspects of reality that already exist. Gloria added that their origin and truth are completely unknown. Rumor has it that these transcendental objects are born inside bodies, and that only those close to them can extract their power. They have the power to change the world beyond common sense, to recreate it as they please. It is not Freonir's fault that she does not know about this. Knowledge of them only appeared at the end of the last Great War, after the girl was sealed. Shiramine said that if someone had an affinity for them, then they were somewhat similar to the sacred sword. Gloria replied that they were, although she did not know if they were truly related. Ni said that even though she had heard rumors, to think that they could be so far from reality, she wanted to conduct research on this sacred relic and this boy. Tsukumo said that the human army had been collecting them from all over the world, entire mountains of relics awaiting their match. That's why the 8th seed decided to create the match himself. However, he knew that non-humans had a much higher chance of being suitable for the relic, so he infused non-human blood into Sumair and him without telling anyone. When this Daywowser found out about this, it was immediately decided to get rid of them. It is unforgivable and very selfish to have created them and to have gotten rid of them in the same selfish way. That's why he uses this power to create an empire and prove that he is not just someone's guinea pig. A relic implanted in his body, black like a smog Kanazashi. It allows him to rework reality to create clones of himself using shadows, within a few hundred meters of himself. He ordered them to see his power. He used the skill of 100 ghost stories. Sumair said that things were bad, because the sun had disappeared. Now Tsukumo alone would not be able to cope. Tsukumo says he doesn't care about their fight anymore. He says Shiramine, his comrades, and the Demon Queen will all fall by his hand. Freonir said it was an offensive technique. Ni realized that the number of shadows was quite large. All the shadows started to attack at once. At this time, Liet told everyone not to be afraid and to deploy their shields. The little children ran to Sumair. The girl said that despite the fact that she and even everyone else were here, this stupid boy forgot about them in a fit of rage. Shiramine turned to the boys, but Tsukumo asked if the boy had really forgotten about him. Shiramine deftly grabbed the shadow and pinned it to the ground. Shiramine says that since Tsukumo wants it that way, he will show no mercy. He calls the sword to himself. Suddenly, the sword flies out of the camp and arrives right at the boy. Surom was surprised that the boy was able to summon the sacred sword directly to himself. Freonir said that this was also one of the abilities he had learned from training with them. Shiramine said that Tsukumo had suggested this duel and ended up breaking the rules himself. He said that the boy had crossed the line. He wounded his friends and wounded Freonir. The youth uses the tenacious blade of worry and destroys many of Tsukumo's shadows. The boy was very surprised and then tried to dodge this ability. Suddenly, Shiramine was right next to the boy, and Tsukumo was scared. The young man uses the tenacious blade of worry once again and sends the ability into the sky, cutting through the clouds. Tsukumo's time was up. Ni said that the technique's destructive power had increased. Freonir added that perhaps he had been more restrained with his opponents before. Or rather, Shiramine is becoming more and more skilled at drawing out the true power of the holy sword. Tsukumo realizes that with such a small shadow, he will no longer be able to create clones. Shiramine interrupts him and asks the boy to answer him. He puts his sword to his throat and asks if he still wants to continue. Tsukumo thought that he had deliberately missed by showing mercy to him. This was the final defeat. Then Tsukumo started to cry, and his hair color became light again. He said through his tears that everything was not planned like this at all. Shiramine thought that with Tsukumo, everything was also complicated. Surame said that she couldn't believe that Tsukumo had such a hard time just giving up. Tsukumo replied that the girl was right. Suddenly, Tsukumo hugged Ni and said that it wasn't cool to be so stubborn. Tsukumo became confused and asked what the boy was doing there. Ni said that since Tsukumo lost, he will be with them now. She asked the boy to let her examine him properly. Tsukumo was embarrassed. He asked the girl to let him go, because he had not yet admitted defeat. He ran to the side, but ran straight into Gloria. Gloria pulled Tsukumo close and said that she understood that the boy was unsure about joining them, but his little head didn't have to worry about that. Tsukumo was very embarrassed and flushed. Gloria said that he was very curious about what was wrong with him. Then Sumire said that before this they lived under the supervision of the 8th seed, or with other children, so the charm of adults with big curves will inflame Tsukumo's insides too much. Gloria was surprised that he behaved like this because of this. Freonir said that she assumed that, having been born only a year ago, he must be the purest of the pure. Shiramine said that was a little strange to hear. With Tsukumo unconscious, both in word and in deed, the duel was decided. All four-eared creatures joined the non-humans. At first, some resisted, but they gave in quite easily. Thus, the non-humans would now protect and support them. Then they had a feast. Freonir looked at Shiramine. The young man at this point started talking about a kiss on the cheek. They were then interrupted. He asked the girl if she wants to continue where they left off. Freonir was embarrassed and asked the young man why he was doing this all of a sudden. First of all, he was not in the mood for it. Shiramine said that it was about the same mood as Den. Freonir told the boy that it was enough and they would forget about it. Something just came over her at that moment. The boy agrees if the girl says so. Freonir smiles and remembers the moment when the boy talked about Tsukumo hurting his friends and hurting Freonir. At that moment, for some reason, she was happy. She again experiences that feeling that as she is with Shiramine, he will come and save her at any time and will always be by her side. Compared to this trust, a kiss doesn't seem like such a big deal. Suddenly, Sumire clings to Shiramine. Shiramine asked the girl if she was really drunk. The girl replied that she had not drunk anything. She tried what Gloria gave her and she felt very good. Shiramine realized that this was a thing that he didn't understand anything about later. Sumire called Shiramine and asked if she could thank the boy. Then she secretly left Tsukumo. Of course, it was largely because she wanted to go to the boy. She thought that if she left Tsukumo, he would change his mind and realize that the idea of creating an empire was crazy. She wanted to create one, so she was determined to part ways with Tsukumo and the others forever. But Shiramine made sure that they were all together. At that moment, Ni and Gloria were having fun with Tsukumo. Sumire thanked Shiramine and called him her hero. Then the girl told the boy that she loved him and then kissed him. Freonir was surprised and said that she had changed her mind and that she and Shiramine should kiss too. Sumire said that she would do it again then. At this time, Sumire and Tsukumo were being watched by some insect-like device. The man said that the two perfects eventually joined the Inhumans. It hurts to lose two messengers of the sacred relics. He tells Dayhauser this because it is his fault that he became emotional and got rid of them. He asks Dayhauser what he thinks about it. Dayhauser said that firstly, it was the man's fault that he did them at his own discretion, although their escape was also partly thanks to him. He addresses the man and identifies him as the director of the Engineering Bureau, Shido Edo, the 8th seed. Especially lately, if he stands out more, there is a limit to how much and where he can cover it. The girl said that Dayhauser was acting arrogantly because he himself was carried out feet first by the non-humans and even allowed them to steal Earthralia, which the professor created. Amelia turned to a girl named Pesty and told her that she would not allow her to scold her master. Pesty smirked and asked why she was acting so cocky when she'd also been defeated. She couldn't even defend her master. She said that the old models were so bad. Amelia was about to hit the girl, but Shido Edo grabbed him by the head and told them enough. He would not tolerate his pride and joy, perfect beings, fighting each other. If they did, he would reconfigure them. Amelia gritted her teeth, and Pesty apologized to the professor. Dayhauser told everyone to stop, and then turned to Edo and asked what about that thing. Edo said it was ready. Thanks to this, Earthralia can be safely disposed of. Or rather, will all non-humans be destroyed.